The Dawn Era in the Elder Scrolls is a period of incomprehensible, non-linear time and conflict. It is also known as the beginning times and marks the dawn of creation. Different cultures and religions have their own legends about the beginning of existence, often involving entities in conflict. These forces are Anu and Padme. They are two primordial concepts in the Elder Scrolls universe. Anu represents order, stasis, and light, while Padme personifies chaos and change. They are considered equal and opposite forces existing before the Orbis and the Void. The story of Anu and Padme is often compared to the yin and yang concept in Taoism. These two beings were the embodiment of the primordial forces of the universe. From their interplay, the Orbis, also known as the Chaos or Totality, was formed, giving rise to the cosmos. Anu and Padme engaged in a conflict that led to the creation of their respective souls, Anuiel and Sithis. Different versions of the story exist, involving Nur's death, the birth of 12 worlds, and the role of Magnus. The Et'Ada, or original spirits, originated from Anu and Padme and created 12 worlds with life. These Et'Ada are perceived differently by humans and elves, who divided them into the Aedra and the Daedra. The Aedra are viewed as our ancestors by humans and are associated with the creation and order, while the Daedra are seen as not our ancestors and are associated with change and chaos. The Aedra and Daedra played significant roles in shaping and influencing the mortal plane. Anuiel's soul, Auriel, introduced the concept of time. In the Elder Scrolls, the concept of time is complex and intertwined with the creation of the world. Deities exist before or outside of time and can influence it. For example, the Elder Scrolls themselves, or powerful artifacts that can manipulate time and even cause disruptions, such as the creation of a time wound. Nirn, the mortal plane and the center of Mundus, was created by the deity Lorkhan and the 8 divines, and is a complex and debated topic. There are different interpretations and myths surrounding this event. One prevalent theory is that Lorkhan convinced the other Aedra, the 8 divines, to assist him in creating Nirn. He presented the idea of Mundus, the mortal plane, as a place where they could experience a more tangible existence. According to this theory, Lorkhan tricked the Aedra into sacrificing a portion of their power to create this new realm. The Aedra believed that, by giving a part of themselves, they would become more connected to the mortal realm and its inhabitants. However, this act of creation also resulted in the Aedra becoming weakened and bound to Mundus, unable to fully return to their divine realms. Akatosh, as the chief deity of the 8 divines and the dragon god of time, saw Lorkhan's actions as a threat to the stability and order of Mundus. Lorkhan, also known as Shor or Shazar, embodied chaos and change, which clashed with Akatosh's ideology of order and control. By ripping out Lorkhan's heart, Akatosh may have sought to remove his influence and restore balance to the mortal plane. Another interpretation suggests that Akatosh's act was a form of punishment for Lorkhan's trickery and manipulation in convincing the other Aedra to sacrifice a part of themselves to create Mundus. Lorkhan's actions were seen as deceitful and disruptive, and Akatosh's act of ripping out his heart may have been a form of retribution. Regardless of the specific details, the creation of Nirn involved a combination of divine power and sacrifice. Magnus was a powerful deity who contributed greatly to the creation of Mundus. However, as the project progressed, Magnus became disillusioned with the limitations and consequences of sacrificing his power to create the mortal realm. In an act of rebellion, Magnus decided to abandon the project and flee to Aetherius, the plane of pure magic and divine energy. As Magnus departed, he tore a hole in the fabric of Mundus, creating a rift known as the Magnus Eye, or the Sun. This rift allows magicka, the energy used for casting spells, to flow into Mundus. The presence of the sun and its magical energy is believed to be a direct result of Magnus's departure. The Magnagi are a group of Et'Ada, or divine beings, who were originally part of the Aedra. However, during the creation of Mundus, they chose to abandon the project and fled to Aetherius alongside Magnus. The reason for their departure is not explicitly stated in the lore, but it is believed that they left because they did not want to sacrifice their power to become bound to the mortal realm like the Aedra. By staying in Aetherius, they retained their immortality and freedom. Some accounts suggest that they left to avoid the consequences of Lorkhan's trickery in the creation of Mundus. Although they were absent in the mortal plane of Mundus, the Magnagi still had an influence on the events of creation. The Alnafe are a group of ancestral spirits. They are believed to be the original inhabitants of Nirn, the mortal plane. The term Alnafe means earthbones in Eldmeris, the language of the Elves. The Elnafey are divided into two main groups, the Old Elnafey and the Wandering Elnafey. The Wandering Elnafey were the most powerful and advanced of the ancestral spirits, while the Wandering Elnafey were less powerful and more nomadic. Over time, conflicts arose between the Old Elnafey and the Wandering Elnafey, leading to a great war known as the War of Manifest Metaphors. This war resulted into the fragmentation of the Elnafey into different races and species, including the Elves, humans, and the other creatures that inhabit Nirn. The surviving Elnafey eventually became the ancestors of the various races in Tamriel, such as the Altmer, Dwemer, Nords, and Redguards. Their descendants carry the blood and memories of the Elnafey within them, which is why individuals in the Elder Scrolls universe have the potential of great power and significance. It is important to note that the Elder Scrolls universe has a cyclical nature, with worlds ending and new ones beginning. The belief in Alduin, the World Eater who consumes creation periodically, and Satakal, a deity who devours himself and is reborn, reflects this cyclical aspect. The concept of time is deeply intertwined with the creation and destruction of worlds, making it a central theme in the lore. The Merethic Era is a significant period in the lore, marking the early history of the Tamrielic continent and the rise of various elven civilizations. It is believed to have begun after the Dawn Era and lasted for thousands of years. During the Merethic Era, the Ultimate civilization flourished and several elven empires arose. Notable among these were the Ayleids in Cyrodiil, the Dwemer in Morrowind, and the Chimer in Morrowind as well. These empires had their own distinct cultures, beliefs, and political systems. The Merethic Era was also a time of conflict and competition between the various elven civilizations as well as with other races. The Ultimer, who are the ancestors of the modern-day Elves, migrated to Tamriel from the continent of Eldmeris. The exact details of their migration are not explicitly described, but there are various theories and accounts within the lore. One theory suggests that the Ultimer traveled to Tamriel through a land bridge or land mass that connected Eldmeris to Tamriel. This land bridge is believed to have been destroyed or submerged over time, cutting off direct access between the two continents. Another theory proposes that the Ultimer used magical artifacts or spells to transport themselves and their followers across the vast oceans that separate Eldmeris from Tamriel. This interpretation emphasizes the advanced magical capabilities of the Ultimer. It is also possible that the Ultimer migrated gradually over an extended period, with different groups or waves of migration occurring at different times. This could have resulted in the establishment of the different Ultimer settlements in city-states throughout Tamriel. Overall, the exact method of the Ultimer's migration to Tamriel is not explicitly stated in the lore. The lack of definitive accounts allows for different interpretations and theories to exist, adding to the richness and depth of the world. The different races of elves in Tamriel, such as the High Elves, Wood Elves, Dark Elves, and others, are believed to be the descendants of the Ultimer. Prophet Veloth was a Chimer mystic who led his followers on a migration from the Somerset Isles to their own new homeland of Resdain, now known as Morrowind. Veloth rejected the Eldemeri society he came from and sought a more ascetic and pure way of life. He taught his followers to worship the Daedric princes and to distinguish between the good Daedra and the bad Daedra. Despite facing scorn and rejection, Veloth and his followers persevered on their journey, driven by his leadership and vision. They were eventually stopped by Trinimac and his followers. Trinimac was a revered figure among the Ultimer, known as the champion of the Aedra and enemy of the Daedric princes. However, during a conflict with the Daedric prince Boethia, Trinimac was defeated and consumed by Boethia, transforming him into a new entity known as Malakath. Eventually, Veloth and his followers reached Resdain and founded a new nation based on Daedric principles, now known as the Golden Age of the Chimer culture. As a result of Trinimac's transformation, Trinimac's followers were also changed. They became the Orsimer, a race of outcasts and pariahs. They were cursed and physically transformed, becoming the strong and fierce warriors that we know as orcs today. The orcs, under the leadership of Malakath, embraced their new identity and formed their own society in the region of Orsinium. They are known for their strong sense of honor, martial prowess, and their skill in craftsmanship. The Needs were a diverse group of tribes and cultures spread across different regions of Tamriel. They had their own unique customs, languages, and beliefs. Over time, they developed their own kingdoms and civilizations. However, as the Elves began to rise in power and influence on the continent, the Needs faced conflicts and wars with these ancient races. The most notable conflict was the Alessian Rebellion, led by Saint Alesia. This rebellion marked a turning point in Nedic history, but more of that later on. The Needs eventually intermingled and assimilated with the other races such as the Atmorans and the Yakutans thousands of years later. The races of men also started to migrate from their homeland of Atmora during this time. The Nords are believed to have originated from the continent of Atmora, which is located in the north of Tamriel. They migrated to Tamriel during a period known as the Atmoran colonization. According to the lore, Atmora was once a frozen and inhospitable land, but as it started to thaw, the Nords began their journey southwards to reach a new home. They crossed the Sea of Ghosts and arrived in Skyrim, which is one of the provinces of Tamriel. Ysgramor is a prominent figure in the lore, specifically in the history of the Nords. He is remembered as a legendary hero and the founder of the first human empire in Skyrim, known as the 500 Companions. According to the ancient tales, Ysgramor lived in the Middle to late Merethic Era, a time when Skyrim was inhabited by the Snow Elves, also known as the Falmer. The Snow Elves, led by the ruler the Snow Prince, attacked and drove the human settlers out of Skyrim. Ysgramor and his sons Yingol and Ylgar survived the attack and fled to Atmora, the frozen continent to the north. Driven by revenge and the desire to reclaim Skyrim, Ysgramor gathered a group of 500 warriors known as the Companions and set sail back to Tamriel. They arrived in Skyrim and waged war against the Snow Elves, eventually defeating them and reclaiming the land. With the aid of Wuthred and his companions, Ysgramor established the first human settlement in Skyrim, which would later become the city of Windhelm. The Dragon Cult is an ancient religious order that worshipped dragons as divine beings. This cult emerged sometime in the Merethic Era, though exactly when is unknown. The dragon cult was primarily based in Skyrim and was led by powerful dragon priests who acted as intermediaries between mortals and dragons. The dragon cult believed that dragons were godlike beings with immense power and wisdom. They saw themselves as the chosen servants of the dragons and sought to emulate their masters in every way. The cult's followers built massive dragon temples and performed rituals to honor and appease the dragons. Under the rule of the dragon priests, the dragon cult exerted strict control over the population of Skyrim. They demanded tribute and sacrifices from the people, and anyone who dared to oppose them was swiftly punished. The cult's reign was characterized by fear and oppression, with the dragon priest wielding absolute authority. However, the dragon cult eventually faced a rebellion led by a legendary dragon named Paarthurnax. Paarthurnax and the ancient Nord heroes Hakon One-Eye, Feldir the Old, and Gormlaith Goldenhilt waged war against the dragon cult, ultimately defeating them and driving them out of Skyrim. King Eplir Cameron, a powerful and influential king, was able to consolidate his power and establish the Cameron dynasty through diplomatic negotiations, strategic alliances, and military campaigns. Wood Elves are known for their agility, archery skills, and stealth, so it is possible that King Eplir utilized these strengths to secure his position and establish his rule. With the founding of the Cameron dynasty by Eplir, the Merethic Era came to an end. The First Era is a sprawling period of history that encompasses almost 3,000 years. Now, I'm not going to explain every event that happens during this era, due to the fact that I would probably die of old age before reaching the end of the topic, though I will explain events that I think are important to the overall grand scheme of things. High King Harold, also known as Harold Hanfrey, was the first High King of Skyrim and played a significant role in the establishment of the Kingdom of Skyrim. High King Harold united the various clans and tribes of Skyrim under his banner, bringing peace and stability to the region. His leadership and diplomacy allowed him to forge alliances and maintain a sense of unity among the people of Skyrim. He was known for his ability to negotiate with other factions and to maintain a delicate balance of power. The rise of Saint Alesia is a significant event in the history of Tamriel. Alesia was a human slave who led a rebellion against the Ayleids, a race of elven slave masters, during the First Era. Her rebellion marked the founding of the Alessian Empire and the beginning of a new era of human rule in Tamriel. The Needs fought for their freedom and sought to establish a society that embraced their own culture and beliefs. Alesia, a charismatic and visionary leader, played a crucial role in rallying her people and inspiring them to take action. She also formed alliances with other oppressed groups, such as the Argonians and Orcs, further strengthening her cause. Skyrim played a significant role in the history of Saint Alesia and her struggle for freedom. While Skyrim itself did not directly aid Saint Alesia, it was one of the regions that joined her cause and fought against the Ayleid Empire. Additionally, Alesia received divine assistance in her quest for freedom. According to the legends, Pelennor Whitestrick was a divine crusader sent by the gods to aid Alesia in her rebellion against the Ayleids. He was said to be a powerful warrior, clad in shining armor and wielding a sword and a mace. Pelennor was known for his ferocity and unwavering dedication to the cause for freedom. Pelennor Whitestrick was not a mortal man, but rather an avatar of the gods, specifically the god of war, Shazar, and the god of time, Akatosh. He was driven by a divine purpose and burning desire to rid Tamriel of the Ayleid oppressors. Pellennor's battles against the Ayleids were legendary, and he was known for his brutal and merciless tactics. He was said to be a fearsome sight. Pelennor Whitestrick had a close and significant relationship with Saint Alesia. Pellennor's relationship with Alesia was characterized by loyalty, trust, and a shared vision for freedom and establishment of the Alessian Empire. Alesia recognized Pellennor's divine nature and the importance of his presence in the rebellion. She relied on him for guidance, strength, and inspiration. Morhouse was the son of Kine, the Nordic goddess of the storm. He is said to have been born with the features of a bull, symbolizing his divine heritage. Morhouse possessed great strength and was known for his ability to breathe fire, a gift inherited from his mother. Morhouse was not only a formidable warrior but also a charismatic leader. He helped rally the Needs, inspire them to fight against the Ayleids. His presence and abilities on the battlefield were instrumental in the success of the rebellion. The relationship between Morhouse and Saint Alesia was one of partnership and shared purpose. They worked together closely to lead a rebellion and achieve their goal of freeing the Needs from the Ayleid domination. Alesia made a covenant with the deity Akatosh. This covenant granted her the Amulet of Kings, a powerful artifact that symbolized her divine right to rule and provide her with the support of the legendary Dragonfires. It is believed that Pelennor, being an avatar of Akatosh, was directly connected to Alesia's covenant and played a crucial role in upholding it. Pellennor's fierce determination and unwavering dedication to the cause for freedom earned him the respect and admiration of Alesia and her followers. With the support of her followers and the divine blessings of Akatosh, Alesia successfully led the rebellion against the Ayleids. The rebellion was not just a military conflict but also a clash of ideologies. The Needs, under Alesia's leadership, sought to establish a new religious order known as the Alessian Order. This order rejected the elven pantheon and worshipped the divine spirits Akatosh. Umaril the Unfeathered was an Ayleid sorcerer king who sought to reclaim Cyrodiil and destroy the worship of Alesia and the Eight Divines. According to some accounts, Pelennor engaged Umaril in a series of epic battles over the course of many years. Pelennor was known for his incredible strength and skill in combat, as well as his divine connection to the gods. In their final confrontation, Pelennor confronted Umaril in the White Gold Tower, the heart of the Ayleid Empire. The battle was fierce and intense, with both warriors using their formidable powers and skills. Umaril was a formidable opponent, possessing immortality and powerful magical capabilities. Despite this, Pelennor fought with unwavering determination and divine strength. In the end, Pelennor managed to mortally wound Umaril, but at a great cost. Pelennor himself suffered severe injuries and was exhausted from the intense fight. As Pelennor lay dying, he was attended by his loyal comrade Morhouse, the Bull of Kine. Morhouse, who possessed the blood of a divine being, attempted to heal Pellennor's wounds, but it was to no avail. Pelennor succumbed to his injuries and passed away, leaving Morhouse to mourn the loss of his close friend. Saint Alesia successfully overthrew the Ayleid Empire and established the Alessian Empire. After the fall of the Ayleid Empire, the fate of the Ayleids varied. Some Ayleids were killed during the rebellion, while others were driven out of their cities and forced into exile. Many Ayleid cities were destroyed or abandoned, and their ruins can still be found scattered throughout Cyrodiil today. Some Ayleids managed to survive and integrate into the new Alessian Empire, albeit as second-class citizens. They were often subjected to discrimination and oppression by the human rulers and the Alessian Order. Over time, the Ayleids gradually lost their distinct cultural identity and merged with the broader Cyrodiilic society. Other Ayleids fled to other regions of Tamriel, seeking refuge and a chance to rebuild their lives. Some Ayleids settled in Valenwood, where they interacted with their native Bosmer cousins and adopted aspects of their culture. Others migrated to High Rock and established small communities there. However, their numbers continued to dwindle and eventually they faded into obscurity. The teachings of Saint Alesia were based on a combination of Alesia's visions, the worship of the Nine Divines, and the strict moral code. The Order sought to enforce a highly orthodox and puritanical form of religious beliefs and practices, with a focus on the rejection of the Daedric influences. A little over 100 years passed after the founding of the Alessian Empire. Maruk, a prophet, founded the Marukati Selectives, a religious movement that had profound impact on the history and culture of Tamriel. He was a fanatical worshipper of the divine Akatosh, the dragon god of time. Maruk believed that the Alessian Order, the dominant religious institution of the time, had strayed from the true teachings of Akatosh and had become corrupted by the influence of the elven gods known as the Aedra. In an attempt to purify the Alessian Order and restore the worship of Akatosh, Maruk founded the Marukati Selective. This religious movement advocated for radical interpretation of Akatosh's teachings, emphasizing the unity and singularity of the god. They believed that the Aedra, including the elven gods, were false and that they had to be removed from the divine pantheon. In the lands of Skyrim, which was ruled by High King Borgus, was the last of the Ysgramor dynasty, which was a line of kings that ruled over Skyrim for many generations. During his rule, the traditional Nordic gods were replaced by the beliefs of the Alessian Order in Skyrim. This religious shift, known as the Shadow of King Borgus, lasted for more than a century. It was only reversed through violent means when High King Wulfarth took power. High King Borgus strongly supported the teachings of the prophet Maruk, but this led to a growing hostility between the Cameron dynasty of Valenwood and the Empire. In an attempt to rally the Empire for a joint war against the Bosmer, High King Borgus faced the forces of the Wild Hunt. Borgus traveled to Cyrodiil. The Wild Hunt transformed the Bosmer into savage and monstrous creatures, granting them immense strength and ferocity. They tore through Borgus's forces, overpowering and overwhelming them. In the chaos of battle, King Borgus was ultimately slain by the combined mights of the Wild Hunt and the other enemy forces in the 369th year of the First Era. He had his horn, known as the Horn of Borgus, with him at the time of his death. Some accounts suggest that he was killed because of his devotion to the Alessian faith. Although his body was thought to be destroyed during the Wild Hunt, it was secretly returned to Skyrim and buried alongside the Jagged Crown in the Nordic tomb of Kurvanyund. The death of King Borgus at the hands of the Wild Hunt served as a reminder of the Bosmer's connection to nature and their ability to tap into its primordial forces during times of great need and desperation. Following King Borgus' death, the various factions and noble houses within Skyrim vied for power and control, each seeking to claim the throne of becoming the new High King. This led to a series of wars and battles. As these factions clashed with one another, this conflict would be known as the War of Succession. The War of Succession was characterized by political intrigue, alliances, betrayals, and military campaigns. Different factions rallied behind different claimants to the throne, each with their own motivations and ambitions. The conflict was not limited to Skyrim alone, as neighboring provinces and kingdoms also became involved in the struggle for influence. In the lands of Resdain, Indoril Nerevar and Dumak Dwarf King created an alliance known as the First Council in order to stop the growing threats posed by the Nords. The War of Succession lasted for several years with no clear victor emerging for a significant period of time. The fighting and chaos resulted in a widespread devastation and loss of life throughout Skyrim. It was not until 51 years later that the War of Succession would finally reach its end, with the crowning of Olaf One-Eye after defeating the dragon Numenex. Rislav Larich, also known as Rislav the Righteous, was born in Skingrad in the 448th year of the First Era as the 8th child and 4th son of Queen Lenada and King Morris of Skingrad. His early life followed the typical path of a Colovian prince, but his destiny took a remarkable turn due to a series of events. Rislav's life took a significant turn when he married Beline, the daughter of King Justinius of Kavach. This marriage was likely arranged to strengthen ties between the two kingdoms and promote peace. Rislav became a Count of Kavach through this marriage. In the 478th year of the First Era, a devastating plague swept through Cyrodiil, and the royal family of Skingrad was severely affected. In the end, only Rislav and his older brother, Dorold, who was a priest of Maruk, survived. Dorold made a controversial decision to cede the kingdom of Skingrad to the Alessian Empire, a decision that greatly angered Rislav. In response to Dorold's actions, Rislav took matters into his own hands. He led a small band of cavalry from Kavach to Skingrad. Surprisingly, they encountered no resistance from the Skingrad guards, who were equally displeased with Dorold's actions. In the castle courtyard, Rislav publicly denounced his brother and swiftly beheaded him with a single stroke. He then assumed the throne as the new High King of Skingrad. However, Rislav's actions did not go unnoticed by the Alessian Empire, particularly Emperor Gorius. The Emperor believed that Dorold's decision to cede Skingrad to the Empire still stood, and he marched on Skingrad with a massive army to assert his claim. When the Imperial forces arrived, Rislav confronted the Emperor and famously remarked that his party was too large to be accommodated, and that he should have sent a letter ahead of his arrival. His audacious response led to a battle between the Colovian forces led by Rislav and the Alessian Empire's troops. Rislav's forces employed superior tactics and emerged victorious in the battle. The defeat of Emperor Gorius' army marked a significant turning point in the decline of the Alessian Empire. This event is seen as the beginning of the end of the Empire's dominance in Cyrodiil. Rislav the Righteous is remembered not only for his swift and bold actions, but also for his role in challenging the Alessian Empire's authority, ultimately contributing to its downfall. The early life of King Wulfharth is shrouded in legend and uncertainty, with most of what we know coming from the ancient Nord stories collected in the 5 songs of King Wulfharth. These tales are followed by the Arcturian heresy, which is purportedly autobiographical, but is also surrounded by doubts about its accuracy, including conflicting versions of the same stories. Wulfharth was named High King of Skyrim in either the 480th or the 482nd year of the First Era by the Moot, a gathering of Nordic heroes. He was believed to be a dragonborn possessing an incredibly powerful shout known as a Thuum. His Thuum was so potent that he couldn't swear oaths verbally, and scribes had to do it on his behalf. His first major act as High King was to reinstate the traditional Nordic gods and ban the Alessian edicts, leading to the execution of the priests and burning of their temples. Some of these punishments were carried out by Wulfharth himself, and his mighty voice earned him titles like Shor's Tongue and Ysmir, which means Dragon of the North. Wulfharth's reign as High King is filled with tales of both ordinary and mythical feats. He supposedly drove the Dureni out of Skyrim, defeated the Eastern Orcs and their leader with a shout, repaired High Hrothgar's 418th step after it was destroyed by a dragon, and even swallowed a thundercloud, earning him the name the Breath of Kine. However, his most famous story is that of his death. In a legendary battle, he faced off against the Orcish god, Orki, known for their epic clashes. During this battle, Orki summoned the ghost of Alduin, the Time Eater, who cursed the Nords, making them age rapidly. In response, Wulfharth summoned the ghost of Shor and learned a new Thuum to restore the Nords to their proper ages. Unfortunately, while using the shout, he aged himself too far and died. It is said that the flames from his funeral pyre reached the heavens. The exact cause and date of the War of the First Council are disputed, but it is believed to have started after the Dwemer discovered the Heart of Lorkhan, a powerful artifact believed to be the heart of a dead god. The Dwemer sought to use the power of the hearts for their own purposes, including the creation of a new god. However, the Chimer, led by their leader in Dor el-Nerevar, objected to the Dwemer's plans and saw their actions as sacrilegious. Nerevar formed an alliance with 3 close friends and a lover, Almalexia, Sothasil, and Vivek. Together, they worked closely and opposed the Dwemer's ambitions. Tensions escalated between the Chimera and the Dwemer, leading to the outbreak of the War of the First Council. Induril confronted the Dwemer's leader, Dumak, a dwarf king who was attempting to tap into the Heart's power. A conflict ensued, leading to the Battle of Red Mountain. The specifics of the battle are not well documented, and the different versions of the story exist. The Battle of Red Mountain ended with both General Nerevar and General Dumak collapsing from their wounds. It is believed that Nerevar died from his injuries. However, the circumstances surrounding his death are not entirely clear. Some lore suggests that Nerevar was betrayed by his allies, the members of the Tribune, who used the power of the Heart of Lorkhan to become living gods. This betrayal led to the transformation of Almalexia, Sothasil, and Vivek into godlike beings, known as the Tribunal. They claim to have acted in Nerevar's best interests, but there are conflicting accounts regarding their motives and actions. The fate of Nerevar's remains is also a mystery. Some sources claim that his body was preserved and later worshipped as a saint, while others suggest his remains were lost. After the battle, the Dwemer mysteriously disappeared from the world, leaving behind only their empty cities and ruins. The exact reason for their disappearance remains a subject of speculation and debate. One theory suggests that the Dwemer's attempt to tap into the power of the Heart of Lorkhan played a role in their vanishing. The Dwemer's chief tonal architect, Kagranak, was conducting experiments on the Heart in an effort to create a new godlike being known as the Numidium. It is believed that something went wrong during this process, causing the entire race to be absorbed or transformed in some way. Another theory suggests that the Dwemer intentionally chose to transcend the mortal plane and ascend to a higher existence. According to this view, they have achieved a form of enlightenment or achieved a state of godhood through their technological advancements and knowledge. It is important to note that these theories are speculative and do not provide a definitive explanation of the disappearance of the Dwemer. Following the Battle of Red Mountain, Almalexia, Sothasil, and Vivek formed the Tribunal, a ruling council that would govern the Dwemer and shape the future of Morrowind. The members of the Tribunal became a dominant political and religious authority in Morrowind. They established themselves as the living gods and protectors of the Dwemer people, wielding immense power and influence. The establishment of the temple, which became the primary religious institution in Morrowind, served as the center of worship of the Tribunal, promoting their theology and ensuring their authority over the Dwemer. The sinking of Yakuta is a significant event. The exact details and causes of the sinking of Yakuta may vary in different works of lore. However, it is generally believed that the civil war erupted among the Yakutans, leading to the destruction of their homeland. This war, known as the War of the Singers. During this time, the Yakutans were divided into various factions, each with their own interpretations of the teachings of their gods and the proper way to sword singing. Frendar Hunding was a legendary figure known for his mastery of the sword and his philosophical teachings, which he documented in the Book of Circles. After achieving a remarkable record of 90 duels without defeat, he retreated to a cave in Hatu Mountain, seeking a life of solitude and contemplation. Over the course of 3 decades, he wrote the Book of Circles, outlining his philosophy known as the Way of the Sword. However, his peaceful existence was disrupted in the 780th year of the First Era, when a group of sword singers including his son, Divad Hunding, approached him. They sought his leadership in a war against the Emperor Hera. Initially, Frendar was hesitant to engage in a conflict and advocated for negotiations with the Emperor, despite his wife's death at the hands of Hera. Divad, on the other hand, strongly supported the rebellion. Inside the cave on Hatu Mountain, a heated argument between Frendar and Divad took place for 5 hours, marked by bright flashes of light and angry voices. Eventually, they emerged and Frendar reluctantly agreed to lead the rebellion, which came to be known as the War of the Singers. Frendar devised a military strategy called the Hammer and Anvil and achieved a decisive victory against the Emperor Hera's forces at the base of Hatu Mountain. While victorious, Frendar still grappled with the morality of his decisions and mourned the lives lost. Following the battle, Frendar and the remaining singers, realizing they were unwelcome in the land, set sail from the port city of Arch, becoming the first of the warrior wave, or the Ragada. They eventually arrived in the province of Tamriel, which would be known as Hammerfell. In Hammerfell, they encountered numerous giant goblin strongholds in the desert. Frendar refused to coexist with the Flint-Tooth tribe and led his army in a campaign to eliminate them. Tragically, during one of the most brutal battles, Frendar lost his life. His son, Divad, took command of the Regada and sought to avenge his father's death. After his passing, Frendar Hunding was honored and laid to rest in the secret halls of heroes, where he would eventually be joined by his son, leaving behind a legacy of both martial prowess and philosophical wisdom. The Onsai were revered warriors who had the ability to summon magical sword called the Shihai. However, different factions within the Yokudan society had different interpretations of the teachings and traditions associated with Ensai and sword singing. The arrival of the Yokudans had a significant impact on Tamriel. They established their own society and interacted with the native populations of Tamriel. Orsinium was initially founded by the Orc chieftain Turogogro Igron during the early First Era. It served as a place of refuge and a homeland for the Orcs who had faced discrimination and prosecution in other regions of Tamriel. However, the location of Orsinium and its growing influence created unease among the neighboring races, particularly the Bretons. The Bretons often viewed the Orcs as uncivilized and aggressive. They saw the establishment and expansion of Orsinium as potential threats to their own territories and sought to maintain control over the region. The first siege of Orsinium took place in the 980th year of the First Era. The siege was led by the combined forces of the Bretons and the Red Guards. The reason for the siege was the expansion ambitions of Daggerfall and its leader, King Joil. The Red Guards were led by a prominent Red Guard general named Gaiden Shinji. Gaiden Shinji was a Red Guard swordmaster and the founder of the Imperial City Arena, and was known for his exceptional skill and honorable approach to combat. King Joil of Daggerfall wrote a letter to Gaiden Shinji, who led the Order of Diagna. In the letter, King Joil suggested that they work together to launch an attack on Orsinium. Gaiden Shinji played a crucial role in the conflict, leading the Red Guard forces alongside the Bretons in their efforts to capture the city. The siege was a long and brutal conflict, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. The Orcish kingdom turned out to be very strong and hard to conquer. The siege would last for 30 years. During the siege, Gaiden Shinji ultimately lost his life during his fight with the Orc warrior and chieftain of the Bloodtusk clan, Baloth Bloodtusk. It is said that these two legendary warriors clashed in a fierce battle, showcasing their exceptional combat skills and unwavering determination. King Joil orchestrated a duel between Gaiden and Baloth in order to manipulate them. After the duel, he had both of them assassinated, which suggests that he saw them as potential threats or obstacles to his own ambitions. King Joil, seeking to expand his territory and influence, led his forces in an attempt to seize control over the Bankarai Pass. The Red Guards, led by the legendary warrior Makela Leki, and the Order of Diagna, known for their fierce devotion to the Yokudan god of war, Diagna, stood in opposition to King Joil's forces. The battle was fierce and brutal, with both sides displaying great skill and courage. Ultimately, it was Makela Leki who emerged as the hero of the battle. She engaged in a one-on-one duel with King Joil, and after a fierce struggle, she managed to defeat him in combat. With their leader defeated, the Daggerfall forces were thrown in disarray, and the Red Guards and the Order of Diagna emerged victorious. The legend of Red Eagle tells the story of a heroic figure who led a rebellion against the oppressive rule of the Nords during the era. As Red Eagle grew in power and influence, he became a prosperous leader. In the 1055th year of the First Era, Empress Hestra of Cyrodiil launched an invasion of the Reach. The old kings initially resisted, but they were either killed or persuaded to join the Alessian Empire. Eventually, Hestra's forces reached the Sundered Hills, and envoys were sent to negotiate surrender. In the face of this invasion, Red Eagle refused to yield the freedom of his people. However, the elders of his village were afraid and cast him out, accepting defeat and bowing to Empress Hestra. Despite being cast aside, Red Eagle continued to fight for the freedom of the Reach. Red Eagle's resistance was ultimately unsuccessful. 3 years after the death of Red Eagle, Empress Hestra ordered the head of a legendary pirate figure named Red Brahmin, who has no relations to the Red Eagle whatsoever. The story of Red Brahmin is that he was an Argonian pirate who operated in the imperial province of Blackmarsh during the First Era. His raids along the coast of Topal Bay drew the attention of Empress Hestra, who ordered the Imperial Navy to pursue and capture him. Despite their efforts, the Imperial Navy was unable to capture Red Brahmin in battle in Topol Bay. However, they managed to track him down by following him down a river whose entrance was concealed by thickets of mangroves near Solrest. The Navy pursued him deep into the heart of Black Marsh, eventually cornering him and his bandits near what would later become known as Black Rose. After his capture, Red Brahmin was executed by the Imperial Navy and his head was presented to the Empress Hestra. The Thracian Plague is considered one of the most devastating pandemics in history. The plague is often depicted as a catalyst for significant social and political changes, as entire cities and regions were affected by the disease, leading to the collapse of empires and reshaping of power dynamics. The Thracian Plague is said to have been a deadly disease that originated on the island of Thrace and eventually spread to the continent of Tamriel. Its exact origins and cause within the lore are not explicitly detailed, but it is believed to have originated from the Slode, a race of amphibious and necromantic creatures. Bendu Olo was the Colovian Imperial King of Anvil and the Baron Admiral of the All Flags Navy. He played a significant role in the leading of the campaign to eradicate the Slode from the Coral Kingdom of Thrace after the Thracian Plague. The All Flags Navy under Bendu Olo's leadership consisted of naval forces from various regions including the Colovian Estates, Nibene Valley, Somerset Isles, Hammerfell, and High Rock as well. This unified naval force was instrumental in the successful mission to wipe out the Slode. After the destruction of Thrace, Bendu Olo returned to Anvil and began converting the Anvil fortress into the Castle Anvil. This transformation reflects his desire to establish a lasting legacy and symbolize the triumph over the Slode. The War of Righteousness erupted as a response to the excessive power and influence of the Alessian Order. Those who opposed the Order's strict rule and its perceived exploitation of the people rallied against it. This rebellion was fueled by both ideological differences and a desire for a greater autonomy. One notable event during the war was the raising of the Alessian monastic complex at Lake Canalis. This act symbolized the resistance against the religious order's control and domination. The conflict and the chaos that ensued disrupted the stability of the region and led to turmoil of its inhabitants. Over the course of a decade, the Alessian Order's internal conflicts combined with the efforts of those rebelling against it led to its undoing. The war eventually resulted into the fall of the Alessian Order's theocratic regime. Raymond Cyrodiil I, also known as Raymond I or Raymond the Worldly God, is a legendary figure who played a pivotal role in the founding of the Raymond dynasty and the establishment of the Second Empire of Cyrodiil. His origin story is steeped in myth and legend, blending history and divine intervention. According to the myths, Raymond was said to be born in the village of Sancretor in the province of Cyrodiil. His early years were marked by obscurity and humble circumstances, and he grew up in a modest farming family. One of the most significant moments in Raymond's life was his supposed encounter with the dragon god Akatosh. It is said that Akatosh crowned Raymond with the Amulet of Kings, symbolizing his divine right to rule as the emperor. Raymond's significance grew as he united the desperate tribes and city-states of Cyrodiil, forging alliances and conquering enemies. His ability to unite the region led the foundation of the Second Empire of Cyrodiil. The Akaviri are a mysterious and enigmatic race of people from the continent of Akavir, located to the east of Tamriel. They are known for their martial prowess and distinctive culture. Over time, Akaviri warriors and leaders had made various incursions into Tamriel, leaving a mark on its history. The exact reasons of the first Akaviri invasion of Tamriel are not definitively known. It is said that the Akaviri were drawn to Tamriel due to a prophecy that spoke of their destiny to rule the empire. Other sources state that the Akaviri invaded Tamriel after hunting the remaining dragons that fled to Akavir and flew to Tamriel. Regardless, in the 2703rd year of the First Era, an Akaviri force arrived in Tamriel and a battle known as the Battle of Pale Pass ensued. After the battle, the Sayesi surrendered and declared that they had been searching for Raymond Cyrodiil. Following the battle, the Sayesi who surrendered and were recognized as the best and wisest were formed into an elite order known as the Dragon Guard. With the combined strength of the Akaviri Sayesi and the Imperial Legion, Raymond Cyrodiil managed to conquer most of Tamriel. As a result, Raymond Cyrodiil became the Empire and established the Second Empire. After the death of Raymond Cyrodiil I, Emperor Kastov was crowned as the ruler of the Raymond Empire, but due to his perceived incompetence in ruling the empire, Emperor Kastov was eventually deposed. He was succeeded by his son, Raymond Cyrodiil II, in the 2806 year of the First Era. The siege on Skyhaven Temple was lifted upon Raymond II's coronation. One of Raymond II's initial actions as emperor was to bring an end to the Winterhold Rebellion, a conflict that his predecessor had started recklessly. He achieved this through swift negotiation tactics. Emperor Raymond II was known for his skill in leadership in both military and diplomatic matters. He was a tactician and politician, showing respect to his men and his enemies. His approach to conquering new territory was careful, with a focus on preserving local culture and traditions and establishing beneficial trade. He gathered advisors from the conquered territories to ensure proper governance. Raymond II was also the one who ordered the creation of Alduin's Wall. Emperor Raymond II ordered his empire's legion to launch a major attack into Argonia, an event called the Blackwater War. The campaign was challenging, resulting in significant casualties and losses. They managed to capture only the northeastern parts of the province, prompting Raymond to halt the offensive in the 2837th year of the First Era. Unsatisfied with just Blackmarsh, Raymond then invaded Morrowind 3 years later, leading to a prolonged conflict known as the Fourscore War. He fought against the Dwemer for several years, ultimately dying in battle around the age of 57. After his death, Brazlis Dor took over briefly. He displayed limited engagement in state affairs and was not regarded as a skilled ruler. He preferred to reside on his estates near Skingrad. He delegated many responsibilities to his potentate Sadri Ashok, a decision seen as wise due to Ashok's effective administrative abilities. Raymond Cyrodiil III was the final leader of the Raymond Empire. He was married to Empress Tavia in the 2899th year of the First Era. Raymond Cyrodiil III imprisoned his wife Tavia in a castle in Gideon, Blackmarsh, due to his paranoia. Ironically, him and his son Julik were assassinated by the Morag Tong, ultimately ending the Raymond bloodline and simultaneously ending the First Era. The beginning years of the Second Era were characterized by the absence of a unified empire, the rise of influential individuals, and the establishment of the various alliances and factions. This era laid the groundwork of the events that followed, ultimately shaping the future of Tamriel. It was also during this era that the Mages Guild was founded by Venus Galerian and the Akaviri warriors by Danis Vas, which would later be known as the Fighters Guild. Potentate Versaduce was a key figure during this time. He found himself in charge of the empire that was falling apart. The vassal kingdoms spread across Tamriel were becoming increasingly rebellious, openly defying his rule. Versaduce was a Sayesi. During his rule, he made a significant contribution to the Tamrielic Empire. He had an imperial prison called the Rose, built on the ruins of Black Rose by his mage advisor Peladol Dureni, which became the most secure and notorious prison in Tamriel by the end of the Third Era. Versaduce played a crucial role in ending the Fourscore War with Morrowind by ratifying the Curvent Truce. He also took steps to control the private armies of the imperial nobility. His actions were featured in a popular historical book titled 2920, The Last Year of the First Era, which detailed the events leading up to the truce. Potentate was known for expanding the empire's cavalry forces. He directed resources to hunt down and eliminate Raymond loyalists, establishing Wolf Rider forces, creating enchanting barding for his soldiers, and even conducting military operations in Skyrim and High Rock. In the 321st year of the Second Era, Versaduce passed the Guild Act, which allowed the formation of the Fighters Guild and the other guilds like the Mages Guild. This gave merchants and vassals a means to protect themselves without relying on a sole standing army. Under his rule, the Dragon Guard, originally an honor guard, were transformed into an intelligence network. They continued to protect the Ruby Throne long after the Potentate's death, targeting those who conspired against the Empire. Versaduce met a tragic end when he was assassinated in Sench Hall. The Morag Tong, a secret assassins organization in Morrowind, was suspected to be behind the assassination. His successor was Sovereign Chorak. It's worth noting that Versaduche's long life was unusual for a member of his race. The Sayesi, some believe that powerful magic was responsible for his extended lifespan, while others attributed immortality to all members of his race. The Mages Guild was established by a prominent figure named Vanus Galerian around the 230th year of the Second Era. Its formation aimed to centralize the study of magic, moving away from the various separate magical groups that had previously dominated magical research and practice. One such group was the Psijic Order, to which Galerian himself belonged. The Psijic Order had been losing favor due to its isolationist policies and a religion resembling ancestor worship, which had become unpopular. Galerian's vision for the Mages Guild was to democratize access to magic. He had magical items, potions, and scrolls available to the general population. Galerian also introduced the title of Archmage for the head of the guild, named in memory of Shalador, the first mage to hold that title. Kiergo was the king of Anakina during the early to mid-3rd era. In the 309th year of the Second Era, he married Queen Ashita of Palatine, and together they formed the Elsewhere Confederacy. This union is credited with giving a rise to the name of the modern-day province, Elsewhere, based on the proverb "a perfect society is always found elsewhere." It is believed that this motto influenced Kiergo's rule. However, the marriage between Kiergo and Ashita brought about significant controversy and conflict in the province. Public opinion was divided, as both sides of the political spectrum felt betrayed by the union and were now forced to share their fortunes with the people who had different ideals. While there were attempts to mend the divisions, the marriage ultimately sparked a class of struggle that briefly posed a threat of foreign intervention. One of the main sources of opposition to the nobility came from the ancient tribes that had previously ruled their own separate kingdoms within Anakina. These ancient chieftains set aside their age-old rivalries and formed alliances that resulted in the destruction of several cities in Anakina. To address the growing crisis, King Kiergo sought help from the Second Empire, but his efforts were hindered by the assassination of potentate Versaduche. Tensions continued to escalate in the 326th year of the Second Era, when Khajiit rebels sacked the capital city of Nequenal and massacred the royal dynasty. The province was plunged into utter chaos and its political stability crumbled. However, the situation began to improve with the intervention of the main, Ridthar Ridata, the spiritual leader of the Khajiits. His efforts helped bring some semblance of order and unity back to Elsewhere, allowing the province to begin the process of recovery. Sovereign Chorak met a tragic end in the 430th year of the Second Era when he was assassinated by the Black Darts. It was presumed that his heirs also perished on that fateful night in Sun's Dawn. One of his heirs, Bolarin K, managed to escape to Elsewhere with the Akaveri refugees, but was eventually killed by the Moragtong assassin named Mathis Deram. The death of Sovereign Chorax and his heirs marked the beginning of the Empire's downfall over a short period, initiating the Interregnum. During the Interregnum, local rulers and warlords gained prominence and many regions of Tamriel began asserting their autonomy. This period saw the emergence of powerful city-states and regional powers. The Imperial City, located in the heart of Cyrodiil, became a focal point of conflict during the Interregnum. It changed hands multiple times as various factions attempted to claim it as their own. The lack of a centralized authority led to the city's instability and frequent battles. It was during this time that Orsinium was sacked once again shortly after Sovereign Chorak's assassination. The Dark Brotherhood's origins are shrouded in mystery and subject to scholarly debates. It is widely believed that their history is connected to the Morag Tong. One popular theory suggests that the Dark Brotherhood splits from the Morag Tong due to religious reasons. It posits that during the backlash against the Morag Tong, they sought the protection of the Tribunal, the ruling power in Morrowind at the time. Mafala, the patron goddess of the Morag Tong, was seen as the anticipation of Avec, one of the tribunal gods. In exchange for the continued existence and protection, the Morag Tong abandoned the worship of Mafala in favor of Avec. However, the Dark Brotherhood, it is believed, objected to this arrangement, leading to their separation. Another variant of this theory is that Sithis, the personification of the void and death, spoke to a former Morag Tong member instructing them to create a new guild of assassins that would worship Sithis and serve his insatiable hunger for souls. Another account, which resulted in the assassination of his author, Enric Milnes, claims that the Dark Brotherhood actually originated as an offshoot of the Thieves Guild. According to the story, during the Second Era, some members of the Thieves Guild found it expedient to kill their burglary targets. The woman, who would later become known as the Night Mother, believed that murder should be formally recognized and allowed within the guild. However, the Thieves Guild leadership disagreed, fearing it would harm their primary business of theft. Undeterred, she founded the Dark Brotherhood. The connection between the Dark Brotherhood and the Morag Tong only emerged later, when some Morag Tong assassins left their struggling organization to join their upstart syndicate. Scholars have also uncovered evidence suggesting that the Dark Brotherhood have already been in existence in the 358th year of the Second Era. A note found in the Nordic village of Jotunheim in that year hinted at a war between two shadowy organizations, possibly referring to the Morag Tong and to the Dark Brotherhood. Additionally, in the 412th year of the Second Era, the Blood Queen Arlimera of Hagatha mentioned in her journals that her family had been using the Dark Brotherhood services since her grandfather's time. This evidence places the formation of the Dark Brotherhood in the 358th or the 360th year of the Second Era at the very least. The Knahaten Flu's origin is the subject of two theories. One theory suggests that the Orgonian shaman, in response to the mistreatment of his people by the other races, deliberately created the disease using the cherished spore trees known as the Hiss. The other theory attributes the outbreak to natural causes. Because Orgonians were immune to the flu, the first theory gained more popularity. The Knahaten Flu initially appeared in the city of Stormhold in the 560th year of the Second Era and rapidly spread throughout Black Marsh and beyond. It had a devastating impact, resulting in the death of all non-Orgonians who contracted the disease. The outbreak persisted for over 4 decades, with the last documented case of the flu occurring in the 603rd year of the Second Era. Dukarak the Black Drake, often referred to as simply Dukarak, was a Reachman, a member of a tribal group native to the Reach region western in Tamriel. He was a charismatic and powerful warlord who sought to expand his influence and dominion over the Reach. He was known for his ruthlessness and brutality in battle, which earned him the title the Black Drake. Dukarak aimed to unite the various tribes of the Reach under his banner and successfully led campaigns to conquer neighboring territories. Dukarak raised a formidable army and launched an invasion of Cyrodiil in the 533rd year of the Second Era, ultimately capturing the city and claiming the Ruby Throne for himself. In the 541st year of the Second Era, approximately 8 years into his rule, Dukarak launched an ambitious campaign to conquer High Rock. His forces, composed of Reachmen, devastated the region of Bankarai. After capturing Evermore and Hallen's Stand, they turned their sights on Wayrest. A prolonged siege ensued, with the well-defended city ultimately emerging victorious, thanks in part of the city's strong walls and the inability of the Reachmen to effectively breach them. Dukarak grew impatient, moved westwards into Glenumbra and sacked the city-state of Camlorn. His forces then marched southwards towards Daggerfall. As the Reachmen besieged Daggerfall, they were taken by surprise by Breton forces led by Emmerich, launched a counterattack. Emmerich personally struck down Dukarak at the city's walls, and the Reachmen army, leaderless, was routed. In the aftermath of this failed invasion, the Daggerfall Covenant was formed to prevent future foreign incursions into High Rock. Morikar succeeded Dukarak as emperor after his death, and eventually the Ruby Throne passed on to Dukarak's grandson, Leovic. Leovic's rule ended in the 577th year of the Second Era, when he was overthrown years later by Varen Aquilarios. In the aftermath of the conflict, the kings of Daggerfall, Wayrest, Camlorn, Evermore, and Shornhelm came together to form the Covenant as a defense alliance against external threats. The Covenant not only served as a means of mutual protection, but also facilitated the reconciliation and prosperity of the membered kingdoms. Additionally, Emmerich, due to the Knahaten Flu's impact on High Rock's royal family, ascended to the throne of Wayrest, solidifying his position within the Covenant. High King Emeric of Wayrest is a member of the Cumberland dynasty. He was taught a variety of diverse subjects with a focus on both trade and speechcraft, but his father also ensured he received combat training. This training included sparring with the Cumberland Armsmaster, working as a lieutenant for the Evermore Caravan, and exercising with the Menevia Heavy Dragoons. By the time Emeric turned 20 in the 542nd year of the Second Era, he had become not only a skilled warrior but a savvy politician. 3 years after the surprise invasion of the Black Drake, Emeric married Princess Mariah of Sentinel, a move that incited the ire of King Rancer of Shornhelm, who had hoped for a different marriage alliance. This led to Rancer's War in the last seed of that year. During the conflicts, Emeric defended Wayrest with the Orichalc Scalpel and eventually broke the siege laid upon his city. In the aftermath of the war, Emeric played a significant role in the formation of the Greater Daggerfall Covenant, advocating for an invasion of Cyrodiil to restore the Empire of Man. Eoden the Skald Prince was born in the 546th year of the Second Era to Queen Mabjorn Flamehair and was the younger brother of Nirnhilda and Fildgor. Known for his singing talents, he was dubbed the Skald Prince of Skyrim. Despite his artistic pursuits, Eoden found himself leading creative communities during his travels across Tamriel. In the 572nd year of the Second Era, while in Riften, Eoden faced the Akaviri invasion led by Durkomal. He fought alongside his friends, the Pack of Bards, to defend Windhelm, but arrived too late to save the city or his mother and sister. Devastated and wounded, Eoden realized his royal responsibility and sought aid from the Greybeards. They summoned Wulfarth the Ash King to assist him. With Wulfarth's help, Eoden claimed the title of the Skald King and rallied Nords from the eastern Skyrim. He fortified Riften, forcing the Akaviri to march into Morrowind. Eoden pursued them into Morrowind, marking the first time a Nord army entered the region since the Battle of Red Mountain. The battle against the Akaviri at Stone Falls became a turning point when Dunmer forces led by Almalexia and Argonian battle mages joined Eoden's Nords. Together they defeated Durkamal's army, drowning many in the sea. The Ebonheart Pact was founded during the Akaviri invasion and included the territories of Skyrim, Morrowind, and Blackmarsh. Following these events, Eoden was crowned the High King of Skyrim at Windhelm, though his brother Fildgor Strongprince contested the throne. Eoden exiled Fildgor and ushered an era of peace and stability in Skyrim and the newly formed Ebonheart Pact. He also had a son named Ernskar. Eärien Eärona Aldmeri was born in the 555th year of the Second Era and is the daughter of King Hidalith and Kinlady Twyndin of Alinor. Despite her royal lineage, she displayed a warrior spirit from a young age, marked by her quick wits and adaptability. She was known to acquire diverse skills and knowledge during her travels. In the 563rd year of the Second Era, Eärien was accepted into the Sapriarch's Labyrinth in the Crystal Tower of Alinor, where she was to study for 3,555 days. However, on the day of her acceptance, she mysteriously disappeared, escaping the Somerset Isles. This event coincided with the unusual celestial occurrences, including the Great Orrery of the Firsthold spinning backwards. While on her journey, Eärien traveled to various places, learning the art of war from the Durrani clan of Belfiera Isle, engaging on feats like outdrinking the High Queen of Eastern Skyrim and becoming the first mate of Fortunata up to Gaul. She also had encounters with the supernatural beings like the Nereids and engaged in daring thefts. In the 580th year of the Second Era, upon her father's death, Eärien returned to the Somerset Isles to claim her birthright as queen. Her brother Naemon had completed his own Sapriarch's Labyrinth training and was supposed to ascend to the throne. However, Eärien became queen and founded the First Aldmeri Dominion, forming an alliance with the Wood Elves of Valenwood and the Khajiit of Elsewhere. The capital of the Dominion was established in Eldenroot, Valenwood. Despite her ascension, Eärion's ritual as queen was incomplete, and she needed to travel to Eredun to commune with the ancient spirits on the island. The Khajiits credited the Aldmeri queen with helping restore order after the outbreak of the Connaughton flu, leading them to pledge fealty to her and the Aldmeri Dominion. Varen Echolarios was born in the 536th year of the Second Era as the son of the Colovian Duke and later became the Duke of Coral. When the Longhouse Emperors legalized Daedra worship across the Empire, Varen sparked a rebellion due to public outrage. He left his nephew Coralus in charge of the Gold Coast and built Varen's Wall to protect the region. Varen summoned Colovian Highland forces and secretly sought assistance from Abnar Thorn to overthrow the Longhouse Emperors. He based his rebellion in Bruma and achieved many victories in Cyrodiil. In the 576th year of the Second Era, Varen and his army stormed the Imperial City, killed the Emperor Leovic, and declared himself Emperor. To honor Abnar's loyalty, he married Leovic's widow, Cleavia Thorn. Varen's rule faced concerns about his legitimacy as a ruler since he wasn't Dragonborn. In the 577th year of the Second Era, he formed the Five Companions to find the Amulet of Kings, after Menemarco convinced him it would make him Dragonborn. During the ritual to become Dragonborn, Menemarco betrayed them, causing the Soul Burst that allowed Molag Bal to start the Plane Meld. After the Soul Burst, Varen lost his memory and ended up in the Abbey of the Moth Priests. There, he studied Elder Scrolls and foretold future events, losing his eyesight in the process. Word of his prophecies reached Menemarco, who had him arrested, burned the abbey, and imprisoned him in the Wailing Prison under the custody of Molag Bal. During the Three Banners War in Cyrodiil, all three alliances launched invasions from their adjacent territories in Cyrodiil, each entering through different routes. The Daggerfall Covenant, led by Grand Warlord Dortine, invaded from Craglorn via the Jaral Mountains and the Colovian Highlands in the northwest. The Ebonheart Pact, under Grand Warlord Zimmeran's leadership, invaded from Morrowind through the Vallis Mountains in the northeast. Lastly, the Eldmeri Dominion, commanded by Grand Warlord Sorcelin, entered Cyrodiil from Reaper's March via the Nemine Valley in the south. To facilitate troop movement, the alliances established transitist networks in Cyrodiil, allowing soldiers to teleport between keeps and outposts. These networks required maintenance and had limited range. During the war, all three alliances discovered Elder Scrolls hidden by the cult of the Ancestor Moth, which they stole and housed grand temples across Cyrodiil. These temples were strategically placed to bestow blessings upon troops on the battlefield. Some soldiers also sought the blessing of Whitestrake, a boon believed to enhance their combat prowess. Priests of Saint Alicia offered these blessings in alliance garrisons. The Daedric prince Cirigorath indirectly intervened in the war by sending Vulandrong to the battlefield to show chaos and provide entertainment. The hammer changed hands frequently among the alliances. The conflict in Cyrodiil primarily involved around siege warfare, with great keeps and forts serving as key battlegrounds. The ultimate goal was to capture the Imperial City at the province center. Each alliance briefly gained control of the Imperial City, crowning their figurehead emperor, but these reigns were short-lived. One notable battle was the Battle of Chalman Keep, where forces from the Pact, Dominion, and Covenants clashed. Ultimately, the Dominion captured the keep and crowned an emperor from their ranks. While central Cyrodiil faced wars, horrors, and destruction, some areas remained relatively untouched. Kavach and Anvil were protected by Varen's Wall, although Anvil fell to pirates led by Fortunata Abdugal. Bruma became neutral ground but faced threats from Daedra. Other towns such as Shadenhall and Coral suffered under Imperial garrisons or calamities. While Bravel witnessed a tragic massacre, the Imperial City itself saw widespread destruction during the war. The main quest of the Elder Scrolls Online revolves around the events that threaten the entire continent of Tamriel. The central storyline follows the player character known as the Vestige. The story begins with the player being imprisoned in Cold Harbor, the Daedric realm of Molag Bal, after a betrayal by Menemarco. With the help of Lyris Titanborn and Cadwell, the Vestige manages to escape and return to Tamriel. The main quest also ties into the broader conflict between the three alliances in Tamriel: the Eldmeri Dominion, the Daggerfall Covenant, and the Ebonheart Pact. The Vestige can choose to align with one of these alliances while still pursuing the central storyline. The overarching goal is to recover the Amulet of Kings, a powerful artifact that can be used to protect Tamriel from the forces of Molag Bal. The Vestige, with the help of the Prophets and the other alliances, embarks on a quest to retrieve the scattered parts of the amulet. The Vestige confronts Minimarco and attempts to thwart Molag Bal's plans to merge Nirn and Cold Harbor through the Plane Meld. This involves battles against Daedric forces in various schemes orchestrated by Minimarco. At the climax of the plot in the Elder Scrolls Online, a decisive battle against Molag Bal in the heart of Cold Harbor, where the Vestige must use the Amulet of Kings to thwart the Daedric Prince's plans and save Tamriel from destruction. I had initially intended to provide a comprehensive overview of each expansion within the Elder Scrolls Online. However, I have come to recognize that the ongoing development of this game is likely to introduce further expansions, each contributing new lore and narrative elements for players to immerse themselves in. It is important to bear in mind that all in-game events and expansions are situated within the context of the 582nd year of the Second Era, unless otherwise specified. The emergence of the Second Eldmeri Dominion transpired in the 830th year of the Second Era, when the Somerset Isles asserted control over Valenwood. The catalyst for this conflict stemmed from the dynastic dispute concerning the Valenwood throne. A faction of the Bosmer population initially sought a diplomatic resolution, proposing the cession of the portion of Valenwood in exchange for the support of the specific claimant. However, upon learning of this, the Altmer launched a military invasion of Valenwood, invoking the Stewardship Clause from an ancient treaty. This incursion resulted in the ascension of the Thalmor as the new governing authority in Valenwood. Acting on behalf of their chosen Cameron claimant, Cameron and Exemes, the military actions of the Altmer effectively marked the establishment of the Second Eldmeri Dominion. Cyrus was born in Sentinel around the 831st year of the Second Era. His family had ties to both the Crowns and the Forebears in Hammerfell, and his father was a renowned comedic playwright. He had an older sister named Izara. As a young boy, Cyrus worked at the docks in Sentinel and dreamt of becoming a pirate. It was there that he met Captain Tobias, a half-Nord pirate. When the Tiber Wars began in the 852nd year of the Second Era, Cyrus' sister Izara married a forebear actor named Hakon, which influenced Cyrus' political views. Cyrus' father attempted to ease the tension between the Crowns and the Forebears by writing a successful play about their shared history. However, this angered Hakon, who believed that the play led to the disbanding of his forebear militia. During a night of celebration, Hakon confronted Cyrus' father and struck Izara. In defense of his sister, Cyrus dueled Hakon to the death and fled to Sentinel, joining Captain Tobias' pirate crew. For several years, Cyrus worked as a mercenary and assassin, taking various jobs across Tamriel. During this time, he helped to liberate a Dunmer slaver camp near Tyr. His mercenary life continued in the 864th year of the Second Era when he received a letter from Tobias informing him that his sister had disappeared on the island of Stros Makai after the Battle of Hunding Bay. Cyrus returned to the island, leaving his mercenary life behind. On Stros Makai, Cyrus delivered an amulet to Lord Richten from the Slowed Necromancer in Gasta in exchange for information about Izara. However, Richten immediately had Cyrus arrested as a rebel. After escaping from the palace catacombs, Cyrus discovered that the Restless League was a rebel organization trying to overthrow the imperial occupation of the island. Izara had been working with them until her disappearance. Cyrus joined forces with the rebels and embarked on a quest to rescue his sister. Through a series of clues, Cyrus learned that Izara's soul had been sold to the Daedric prince Clavicus Vile by Ingasta. Using the Flask of Lilandril, he confronted and defeated Ingasta, ultimately rescuing Izara's soul from Vile's realm of Oblivion, the Fields of Regret. During this time on Stros Makai, Cyrus also accomplished various heroic feats, such as defeating an ogre, retrieving an ancient gear to fix the island's observatory, and helping the Yakutans overcome Ingasta's soul snare. Cyrus's most notable achievement on the island was recovering Prince Ator's soul from the dragon Nofalalargus, who was guarding it. This event led to the creation of a powerful artifact known as the Soul Sword. Using the Soul Sword, Cyrus led the Restless League in an attack on the palace, ultimately defeating Lord Richten and the assassin Drum. With Richton's death, the rebels were able to negotiate a more favorable peace treaty with the Empire. Although Stros M'Kai remained part of the Third Empire, Cyrus' actions on the island made him a legendary figure. Cyrus' life is shrouded in mystery and the subject of various legends. Some tales suggest he sailed west to uncharted lands or faced challenges from Vivek in Yakuta. Other stories recount his encounters with Molag Bal in Cold Harbor and Tiber Septon on Masser. One claim states that Cyrus took command of the legendary ship Dead Man's Dread and ventured north to the Sea of Ghosts, drawn by the tales of Tobias. There he amassed great wealth and lived peacefully in later years. The fate of Cyrus is the stuff of legend, and his legacy lives on in stories told about him. Tiber Septim, who is believed to have been born in the distant lands of Etmora with the name Talos, which means storm crown in the language of the Alnafex. Talos had a brother named Agnerith. His early years were spent in the harsh province of Skyrim, where he learned the ways of warfare. As his life unfolded, Talos rose to the position of general within the Colovian estates, serving under King Kulakain. Widely known as Emperor Zero, was a minor ruler of the region of Falkreath. During the interregnum, when Tamriel was in a state of chaos and power struggles, Kulakain had ambitions to become the ruler of the imperial city, just like many others at the time. To achieve his goal, Kulakain managed to unite the Colovian estates. A pivotal moment in Talos' journey occurred in the cliffs of Sankritor, where he encountered a combined army from Skyrim and High Rock. Initially, these forces were hostile to Kulakain's rule, but they experienced a dramatic change of heart when they witnessed Talos' extraordinary power. The turning point was when Talos demonstrated the use of the Thu'um, a powerful and ancient form of shouting magic, which is closely associated with the Dragonborn, individuals who have the blood of dragons and are believed to be the heirs of the empires of man. This revelation convinced the Skyrim army to abandon their hostility and join forces with Talos. This significant alliance played a crucial role in the formation of the Septim Empire. However, it's worth noting that historical records are not entirely consistent, and some accounts suggest that the Nords of Skyrim may have joined Tiber Septim's cause under different circumstances, possibly when they were caught off guard. Kulakain and Talos managed to conquer the western parts of Cyrodiil in a remarkably short time, achieving this feat within just 1 year. Talos possessed the Thu'um, which gave him the ability to unleash devastating storms on the battlefield that made him nearly unstoppable. As they continued their campaign, they moved eastward. The reputation of their military prowess and the awe-inspiring power of Talos' storms were so formidable that even highly skilled battle mages chose to surrender rather than confront their enemies head-on. In the 854th year of the Second Era, they achieved a monumental victory by conquering the Imperial City. This conquest marked a crucial turning point as it granted them full control over the heartland of Cyrodiil, a significant achievement. Tragically, during the same year of their triumph, an assassin from High Rock managed to infiltrate their ranks. This assassin not only killed Kulakain but also critically injured Talos by slitting his throat. The attack also resulted in a destructive fire that consumed the palace. Remarkably, Talos survived the assassination attempt, but his once powerful ability to shout, a key source of his strength, was forever lost. The assassination of Kulakain paved the way for Tiber Septim's ascent to the throne. Tiber Septim was declared Emperor of Tamriel, a coronation officiated by Zurin Arctus, who would become a key figure as Tiber Septim's imperial battle mage. With his newfound position as Emperor, Tiber Septim embarked on his grand ambition to unite all of Tamriel under a single rule. After the Battle of Sankritor, Tiber Septim worked to establish control over High Rock. He strengthened the rule of the Witch Kings in High Rock and tried to make their borders more secure. However, during this transitional period, merchants, lords, and mercenaries exploited the weakened border laws that would soon be replaced with imperial law. Despite these challenges, High Rock eventually became another province that came under the control of the Empire, solidifying Tiber Septim's conquest and unification of Tamriel. Initially resisting imperial invasion under High King Thasad II, Hammerfell later experienced civil strife between the Forebears and the Crowns. The Forebears signed a pact with the Empire, and with the imperial assistance, they overcame the Crowns. Admiral Richton's tactics and the Dragon of Largus helped secure victory, bringing Hammerfell under imperial control. Years before the Khajiits were officially integrated into the Empire, General Potreid launched a devastating attack on Senchal. The severity of the siege was so extreme that the Empire chose to erase it from its official records. Eventually, Elsewhere was brought under Imperial control, adding it as another province to the growing Empire. Prior to its incorporation into the Empire, there was a conflict in Blackmarsh involving a captive named Riki, during which a key member of Tiber Septim's legion came close to losing a leg due to an encounter with an Argonian feather serpent. However, Blackmarsh was never completely invaded by the Empire, unlike most other provinces. This was mainly because of the treacherous and hazardous inner swamps of the province deterred Tiber Septim. It was decided that invading central Blackmarsh, which held little strategic importance, was best avoided. Instead, the outer borders of Blackmarsh quickly fell in the advancing armies of Tiber Septim. Morrowind was unique among the provinces, as it never had been a part of the previous two Cyrodiilic empires. Tiber Septim, advised possibly by Ysmir Wulfarth, contemplated incorporating Morrowind into the Empire. However, he was hesitant due to the divine power of the tribunal. Nevertheless, Tiber desired the province for its rich source of ebony, which he needed to rebuild Cyrodiil after 400 years of war during the Interregnum. Ultimately, the lure of ebony and the vision of a united Tamriel led him to target Morrowind as well. Initial negotiations between the Dwemer rulers of the Empire failed, leading to Tiber's armies devastating the Dwemer capital of Mournhold. In the aftermath, Tiber and his Dwemer general, Simachisa, encountered the young Baron Zaya, whom they saw as potential asset and took under imperial care. Meanwhile, mutual reservations grew among both sides. The tribunal's power weakened due to the return of Dagoth-Ur, who cut them off of their divine source. In response, Vivec decided to negotiate with Tiber. On the Empire's side, Tiber saw the wisdom of making peace rather than confronting three living gods and the resurgent Dagoth-Ur. Vivec and Tiber Septim eventually signed the Armistice, a treaty granting Morrowind near full autonomy, a privilege no other province enjoyed, in exchange for provincial status within the Empire. As part of the deal, Vivec gave Tiber the powerful brass golem, Numidium. Tiber also made an agreement with the leaders of the Morag Tong, ensuring that only Dwemer citizens could use their services or be targeted by them, likely to avoid the same fate as the Second Empire. Tiber Septim and his armies defeated the ruling Thalmor in Valenwood, but allowed them to maintain certain traditions, like a tribal council. In Somerset Isle, the Ultimur were initially incorporated into the Second Empire of Raymond Cyrodiil with loose terms. However, they were reluctant to accept the influence of humanity on their sacred island of Alinor. Tiber Septim knew fully incorporating the province would be difficult, so he sent Zurin Arctis to negotiate with the King of Alinor. The Ultimur demonstrated their power at Black Rocks, nearly destroying the Third Legion. They also formed alliances against the expanding empire, but Tiber acquired the Numidium from Vivec as part of the Armistice, making it a key to completing his conquest. There is debate about the source of power from the Numidium, with some claiming it came from the Mentella, which sprouted from Zurin Arctis or Ysmir Wulfarth. Zurin Arctis crafted the Totem of Tiber Septim to control the Numidium. Ysmir and Zurin Arctis were defeated by this point, and Tiber Septim turned his attention to the Somerset Isles. After activating the Numidium near Rimmon, Tiber Septim inflicted significant damage on the Khajiit population before besieging and quickly capturing the capital of the Somerset Isles, Alinor. This marked the end of the Tiber Wars and the unification of Tamriel. The Second Era came to an end with the rise of Tiber Septim and the establishment of the Third Empire of Tamriel. The start of the Third Era marked a significant shift towards stability and unity in the continent of Tamriel. For many centuries before this era, Tamriel had been plagued by conflicts, wars, and a fragmentation of its different regions and provinces. It was a time of disunity and chaos, and each province often going its own way. However, with the rise of Tiber Septim and the establishment of the Third Empire, things began to change. Tiber Septim's conquests brought many of the provinces under his control, leading to a more unified and centralized governance. The empire expanded its influence over their provinces, and they began to work together more closely under imperial rule. Pelagius Septim I ruled from the 38th to the 41st year of the Third Era, when he was assassinated by the Dark Brotherhood while praying at the Temple of the One in the Imperial City. Initially, he was quite anxious about taking on the responsibilities of ruling over the diverse provinces of Tamriel. To help him navigate his role, the Underking acted as his advisor. Empress Cantire Septim I was the cousin of the Emperor Pelagius Septim and the daughter of Tiberius Septim's brother Agnerith Septim. She became the third emperor of Tamriel after the Emperor Pelagius' assassination. Pelagius did not have any surviving children. During her reign, Tamriel experienced a period of prosperity with good harvests. Cantire was known for her enthusiastic support of the arts, music, and dance. Pelagius Septim II ascended to the imperial throne of Tamriel following the demise of his father, Uriel Septim II, in the 82nd year of the Third Era. Regrettably, the young emperor inherited not only the sovereignty but also the consequences of his father's financial and judicial mismanagement, which resulted in an extensive debt afflicting the empire. In response to this fiscal crisis, he discharged all members of the Elder Council, allowing only those willing to make substantial financial contributions to regain their positions. This reconstruction extended to the provincial kings of Tamriel, who were encouraged to undertake similar financial restitution within their respective domains. Over the course of his 17-year reign, these actions played a pivotal role in the empire's financial recovery. However, critics of Pelagius II contended that this buyback system led to the loss of experience and insightful advisors who, while lacking in wealth, possessed invaluable expertise. During his reign, Pelagius II fathered 4 children: Antiochus, Potima, Sepphoris, and Magnus, all of whom became entangled in the tumultuous War of the Red Diamond. Pelagius II's rule concluded in the 99th year of the Third Era after a 17-year reign, and his son Antiochus succeeded him as the Emperor of Tamriel. The War of the Isle, which occurred during the early to mid-Third Era, was initiated by King Orgnum of the island's kingdom Payandania, who launched an attack on the Somerset Isles, making it the closest attempt in their history to claim this province. The conflict took place in the 110th year of the Third Era, which was 12 years into the reign of Emperor Antiochus Septim. The war involved not only the warring parties but also the Third Empire and the Sigic Order of Artaeum. For some context, the Maramur of Payandania had many various attempts to invade Somerset Isles over the countless years. While the precise reasons that triggered this particular conflict remain unknown, historical fiction such as The Wolf Queen, written by Wolfen Yarth, provides some insights into the events leading up to the war. In the 110th year of the Third Era, 3 months before the Payandanians declared war, Queen Potima arranged a dinner meeting with King Orgnum in the Blue Palace. In the morning of that same day, she met with the Sigic Order and the Rites Master, Iachesis. The storyline suggests that Potima and Orgnum initially struck a deal in the events of the Payandanians conquering Tamriel. Potima would become empress, supplanting her older half-brother Antiochus. She manipulated the Sigics into supporting Antiochus' removal and promised to support an insurrection against her brother. The war began 3 months later with a united alliance formed between the kings of the Somerset Isles and the Third Empire to confront the Maramur of Payandania. However, despite the combined effort, the Imperial Navy and the Royal Somerset Navies could not withstand the onslaught of Orgnum's fleet. A victory seemed imminent for the Maramur when a sudden and devastating storm materialized off the coast of Artaeum, annihilating their armada. Legends attribute this storm to the Sigic Order, and their explanation has been widely accepted. Potima's life history contains some discrepancies in various historical accounts, with differences in detail such as her mother's name being mentioned as either Kizara or Quintilla, and varying proposals regarding the commencement of her rebellion, with suggested dates being in the 114th or the 120th year of the Third Era. Despite these inconsistencies and scholarly debates, a substantial amount of credible information exists about Potima. Born in the 67th year of the Third Era, Potima was one of the 4 known children of Pelagius II. Upon her birth, her grandfather, Emperor Uriel Septim II, reportedly remarked that she appeared akin to a she-wolf ready to pounce. At the age of 14, she was married to Mantiarco of Solitude, an arrangement that may have had political motives. Nevertheless, their marriage was characterized by genuine affection on Mantiarco's part, and Potima wielded significant influence within the relationship, which she seemed to relish. In the 97th year of the Third Era, Potima gave birth to her son Uriel, named in homage to her grandfather. Tragically, Mantiarco passed away 3 years later. It is believed that shortly following Uriel III's birth, Potima orchestrated Mantiarco's disavowal of his son from a prior marriage, securing her own son's position as the heir of the throne of Solitude. However, Potima's ultimate ambition extended beyond regional rule. She aspired to see her son ascend to the ruby throne of the Emperor of Tamriel. Potima, renowned as the Wolf Queen, became embroiled in a fierce and tumultuous struggle with her own family and the entirety of the Empire of Tamriel. Upon the demise of her brother, Emperor Antiochus, Potima accused her niece, Kentyra Septim II, of being a bastard, aiming to ensure her son's inheritance of the empire. However, her niece's coronation as Empress Kentyra II proceeded, and Potima was subsequently banished from the imperial court. In retaliation, Potima formed alliances with dissatisfied rulers in High Rock, Skyrim, and Morrowind, where she had cultivated support over the years. With her assistance, her son Uriel III led assaults on the Septim Empire, including the capture of Empress Kentyra II in High Rock, and campaigns in Morrowind, resulting in the death of the Empress's consort. The precise date of Empress Kentyra II's death remains a point of contention among historians, with some asserting her demise shortly after her imprisonment in the 121st year of the Third Era, while others maintain that she passed away 4 years later, approximately in the summer of the 125th year of the Third Era, coinciding with her uncle Sepphoris' return to Western High Rock. This era marked the inception of the War of the Red Diamond, with Potima and her son on one side, opposing her younger brothers, Sepphoris and Magnus. Other provinces were divided in their loyalties, but most aligned with Sepphoris and Magnus. In the 127th year of the Third Era, Uriel III was apprehended during the Battle of Ishidag and Hammerfell. Upon learning of this development, Potima led a successful assault against Magnus in the Battle of Falkenstar. Uriel III was ultimately subjected to a grisly fate, consumed by flames at the hands of an angry mob en route to his trial in the Imperial City. Sepphoris I was declared emperor, thus culminating the war. It took Sepphoris an additional decade to vanquish Potima, who employed extreme measures driven by her increasing derangement and indomitable spirits. She delved into conjuration and necromancy, summoning Daedra and reanimating the deceased to assail Sepphoris' forces. Potima transformed Solitude into a nightmarish realm and employed her sorcery to instill terror among her subjects. Her unrelenting tactics, coupled with her own descent into madness, prolonged the conflict until her eventual demise in the 137th year of the Third Era during the protracted Siege of Solitude. The Knights of the Nine were founded in the 111th year of the Third Era by Sir Emil Lannis, a hero of the War of the Isle. The order was established by the ambitious intent of recovering the lost relics of the Divine Crusader, Pellinol Whitestrake, who had been killed while battling the forces of the Ayleid king, Umril the Unfeathered. The order was named after the Nine Divines and was dedicated to their worship. The Order's early members include Sir Emil, Sir Caius, and Sir Torolf, embarked on a quest to recover the Crusaders' relics. They quickly gained renown by defeating the Worm of Ellenglen to recover the cuirass of the Crusader. Word of their deeds spread and many individuals sought to join their ranks. The Knights of the Nine reached their zenith with the addition of Sir Berich Flindrel, a nobleman with a powerful family background. Under Emil Lannis' leadership, with the addition of more knights like Sir Casimir, Sir Juncan, Sir Henrik, Sir Gregory, and Sir Ralvis, the Order experienced a period of great success in recovering the Crusaders' relics. The initial triumph of the Order proved fleeting as a sense of personal pride gradually pervaded its ranks. Each knight began to don the sacred relics they had retrieved for combat, a practice that had been endorsed during the early stages of the Order by Sir Emil himself. In the 121st year of the Third Era, amid the tumultuous backdrop of the War of the Red Diamond, the organization experienced internal schisms. Given the heightened reputation of the Knights of the Nine, a considerable number of its members hailed from influential and well-connected families with vested interest in the ongoing conflict. While Sir Emil endeavored to dissuade the Order's involvement in the war initially, the majority of the knights ultimately headed the call to arms. Foremost among those departing was Sir Barich. The circumstances surrounding Sir Barich's departure were far from harmonious. Disregarding Sir Emil's fervent entreaties, Sir Barich resolutely set forth on his departure, intending to claim both the sword and the greaves of the Crusader. Upon the sacred steps of the Priory, Sir Caius undertook a courageous effort to obstruct Sir Barich's course, aspiring to facilitate a reconciliation. Regrettably, Sir Barich remained obstinate, leading to an adversarial confrontation. Sir Barich's superior combat skills prevailed, resulting into the tragic demise of Sir Caius, who fell by the very sword they sworn to protect. Following this lamentable event, Sir Barich departed to participate in the ongoing conflict, and in the subsequent days a succession of knights followed his wake. The Order, once united and esteemed, never managed to recover from this internal strife. In the 249th year of the Third Era, during the early years of Emperor Severus II's rule, Cameron, a usurper, initiated a calculated invasion of western Tamriel. Over the course of just 2 years, his formidable army consisting of mercenaries, undead, and Daedra managed to conquer most of Valenwood, which was historically associated with the Cameron dynasty. With Valenwood firmly under his control, the usurper's attention turned towards Cyrodiil and the region of Colovia. During this phase, the city of Kvatch was ruthlessly plundered, much of the dismay of Cameron Kaltos, a member of the Cameron dynasty who disapproved of the usurper's brutal treatment of civilians. Kaltos implored the usurper to return to Valenwood, but this request led to a conflict between the both of them. Kaltos was eventually forced to flee, and hostilities ensued between the Lord and his former advisor. Notwithstanding the rift with Kaltos, the usurper continued his military campaign in the western provinces. In 13 years, he succeeded in conquering most of Hammerfell, defeating the kingdoms of Rihad and Teneth. Emperor Severus was preoccupied with the succession war against his cousin Andorak's supporters, attempted to thwart the usurper's invasion by sending mercenaries to Hammerfell, but these efforts proved ineffective. The usurper then directed his attention towards High Rock. By the 266th year of the Third Era, the Iliac Bay region lacked clear leadership to unite the various small states against the threats posed by Cameron's armies. In the decisive Battle of Firewaves later that year, the combined forces of High Rock along with Cameron Kaltos and the impressive naval fleet confronted the usurper's forces on both land near Dwynnen and in sea in the Iliac Bay. The usurper's forces suffered a resounding defeat, and the usurper himself perished in the battle. It was also during this time that his son, Mankar Cameron, was born to the usurper's former mistress, Khalees. The unfavorable weather conditions during the battle were seen by some as a divine intervention. The usurper's defeat was achieved without significant help from the Emperor. The Emperor Severus's attempts to counter the usurper's advance had mostly failed. Consequently, support of the Empire weakened in the western provinces, and the victory boosted the prestige of local rulers, fostering patriotism and separatist sentiments. Uriel Septim V was a notable emperor of the Septim Empire, ascending to the throne in the 268th year of the Third Era. His reign marked a turning point, reigniting optimism about the empire's potential. Uriel V managed to shift the focus of Tamriel away from internal conflicts by embarking on a series of conquests. In the 271st year of the Third Era, he successfully conquered Roscria, which would remain under direct imperial control until the late Third Era, when it was annexed by Solitude. Subsequently, in the 276th year of the Third Era, he extended the empire's influence by taking Kathniki, followed by the conquest of Yenisleia in the 279th year and Irsonit in the 284th year of the Third Era. It is believed that the Sijic Order played a role in influencing Uriel V's decision during these early years. During the early prosperous phase of his rule, Artaeum apologists educated the populace about Eldmeri religion through a document called the Myth of Orbis. One of these mages, Caraselmo, eventually fled to Ashal-Mimil-Kella for his involvement in aiding Rhaegar Thorn under Dagon's orders. In the 288th year of the Third Era, Uriel V embarked on an ambitious invasion of Akavir, although ultimately ended in failure. Regrettably, Uriel V met his demise on the battlefield of Aenith in Akavir in the 290th year of the Third Era. Despite this defeat, Uriel V earned a lasting reputation as a military genius and is often regarded as the second greatest emperor of the Septim dynasty, following the footsteps of Tiber Septim himself. Uriel V had twin daughters, Aloysa and Morihatha, and upon his death, his wife Thonika served as regent until his son, Uriel VI, reached an appropriate age to assume the throne. While Uriel's Akaviri campaign is deemed a disaster, his many early success earned him the reputation of a great warrior emperor. Notably, he employed a battle mage named Hathoth during the Akavir expedition, although Hathoth was never formally appointed as imperial battle mage. While the empire did lose the province of Akavir, the various islands Uriel conquered during his reign remained under the control of the Third Empire, contributing to its continued presence and influence. The game's narrative commences in a gravely precarious situation with the Empire of Tamriel. At the heart of this crisis is Emperor Uriel Septim VII. The Emperor finds himself ensnared in a malevolent predicament. His own trusted imperial battle mage, Rhaegar Thorn, perpetrates an act of treachery by imprisoning Uriel VII within an alternate dimension, effectively exiling him from the world as it is known, marking the beginning of the imperial simulacrum. Seizing the opportunity presented by the Emperor's absence, Thorn adopts the guise of Uriel Septim, a deception of the highest order. By assuming the Emperor's identity, Thorn cleverly conceals the shocking reality of Uriel Septim's captivity from the citizens of the Empire and the world at large. A grand adventure was set into motion. It all commenced with a bold escape from a highly secure prison cell. Our hero, Talon, ensnared and confined, managed to break free. Their quest revolves around the Staff of Chaos, a potent and profoundly significant artifact, and to retrieve its pieces which are scattered throughout the world. The 5-year war was a military conflict that transpired between the Bosmer who reside in Valenwood and the Khajiits hailing from elsewhere. The root cause of this war was a contentious border dispute, and the two sides had differing accounts of how it all began. According to the Bosmer, hostilities commenced in the 394th year of the Third Era when they found themselves under attack by Khajiit bandits. These bandits targeted and assaulted the wood caravans that were en route to Valenwood, carrying valuable resources extracted from the heart of the forest. In contrast, the Khajiit asserts that the war had its origins in the 395 year of the Third Era, when the Bosmer retaliated by launching an offensive against the city of Torval within Elswere's territory. This retaliation was triggered by their growing frustration and anger over the Khajiit bandit attacks. This simmering dispute rapidly escalated into a full-fledged war, marked by bloodshed and conflict. Despite its title, the war did not span a full 5 years, but rather endured for a total of 4 years and 9 months. Hence, it received the name the 5-Year War due to its approximate duration. In the end, Elsewhere emerged as the victor in this war, and they managed to extend their territorial boundaries slightly to the west, gaining control over both banks of the Xylo River. In the 396th year of the Third Era, a relatively minor conflict in the House-Dress region of Morrowind took a dark turn, escalating into a full-scale war between Morrowind and Blackmarsh. The war sparked by a tragic incident involving the death of a Dwemer trader named Rorys, who would later be revered as a saint by the Tribunal Temple. Rorys was taken captive by Argonian rebels, and despite enduring brutal torture, he remained steadfast in his faith. Tragically, he was ultimately murdered by his captors. When news of this horrifying event reached the rest of Morrowind, it sparked outrage and a deep sense of injustice. In response to Rorys' death, Morrowind declared war on Blackmarsh. The conflict that followed was fierce, with Morrowind's armies pitted against the Argonians' Blackmarsh. The battles raged on, and the war would leave a lasting impact on both regions. Ultimately, Morrowind emerged victorious, with its armies defeating the Argonians. As a result of their triumph, Morrowind was able to expand its territory southwards into Blackmarsh. In the 397th year of the Third Era, a conflict known as the War of the Blue Divide unfolded, and it was named after the body of water that separated the warring factions, Somerset Isle and Valenwood, two regions that were once allies. This war was marked by its brevity and brutality. The Somerset Isles emerged as the victor, defeating Valenwood. In the aftermath of the conflict, Somerset gained control over several coastal islands, expanding its territorial reach. The war took a heavy toll, especially on Valenwood. One of the most significant consequences of the conflict was the destruction of many of Valenwood's harbors by the Eltimeri forces. This inflicted severe damage on Valenwood's maritime capabilities. It is important to note that the war occurred shortly after Valenwood had already been weakened by its previous conflict with Elsewhere. This made Valenwood even more vulnerable, and the situation worsened when the Khajiit took advantage of Valenwood's distress. They reignited the war, forcing the Wood Elves to contend with the enemies on two fronts. One known battle in this period was in the 396th year of the Third Era, when the Bosmeri Parik tribe launched a campaign in southeastern Valenwood, targeting other tribes. To make matters more complicated, they received support from Somerset itself. However, it remains unclear whether this episode was the primary cause of the War of the Blue Divide, or if other factors were at play. In the 397th year of the Third Era, a conflict known as the War of the Bandar Muck erupted, involving the provinces of Hammerfell, Skyrim, and High Rock. The war was marked by political maneuvering, territorial disputes, and long-standing grudges. As the war unfolded, Skyrim emerged as the dominant force, defeating the combined forces of Hammerfell and High Rock. In doing so, Skyrim expanded its territories, gaining control of significant portions of the eastern regions of these provinces. This expansion included the capture of the key cities like Elenir and Gehenna. Notably, some of the territories had been subjected to previous disputes at the expense of Skyrim, adding to the complexity of the conflict. For the Red Guards of Hammerfell, this war was deeply personal. They harbored fierce grudges against Skyrim for previous land seizures and yearned for an opportunity to reclaim the territories that had been taken from them. Behind the scenes, the conflict was manipulated by Jaegar Tharn and Pergun Asul, who sought to create a shadow of conflicts, known as Umbra's Keth, as a part of their devious plans. However, their machinations were thwarted by an unexpected hero, the Soul of Conflict, a commoner from Azura's Crossing. This unwitting hero became entangled in the shadowy games orchestrated by more powerful figures through a series of fateful events. After the war, as the dust settles and hostilities ceased, efforts were made to establish peace and repair the damage caused by this tumultuous period. A commission was formed to address the consequences of the conflict and work towards reconciliation and recovery. In the sun-scorched land of Hammerfell, an ordinary resident of Azura's Crossing, known to history only as the player character, found themselves thrust into an extraordinary and perilous quest. Their homeland was in turmoil, caught in the relentless grip of the War of the Bandar Muck, a conflict that threatened to tear the province apart. As the war raged on, a formidable and malevolent force known as the Umbra Keth, a shadow of conflicts, emerged. This powerful entity was a sinister creation of the chaos and violence that permeated the land, and it posed a grave threat to all of Hammerfell. In this dire hour, a legendary task fell upon the protagonist's shoulders. They were entrusted with a mission of paramount importance, to seek out and gather the 7-star teeth. These ancient crystals, imbued with the celestial magic of the stars, held the key to challenging the Umbra Keth and bringing an end to its reign of terror. But the challenges were many, and danger lurked at every turn. And not only were they racing against time to collect these star teeth, but they were also up against formidable adversaries. The Imperial Battle Mage Abnor Tharn sought the Star Teeth for his own dark purposes. Similarly, the enigmatic Shadow Mage Pergun Asul harbored ambitions of harnessing the Star Teeth's magic to control the Umbra Keth. With the fate of Hammerfell hanging in the balance, the protagonists embarked on a quest that would test their courage, wit, and strength. It was a race against time, an epic battle against powerful foes, and a journey filled with peril and magic. The outcome of this extraordinary quest would shape the destiny of Hammerfell and determine the fate of the Umbra Keth, casting a long shadow over the land's history. In the midst of an otherworldly invasion, the Imperial Battle Mage faced a dire and chaotic fate. The malevolent Daedric legions of Mehrunes Dagon had descended upon this facility, where Imperial Battle Mages were stationed, with a relentless assault. They overwhelmed the defenders and mercilessly cut off any hope of reinforcements from the mortal plane of Nirn. Amidst the chaos, a ray of hope emerged. A courageous apprentice from the Imperial Battle College arrived at the battle spire. With bravery and determination, this apprentice confronted the Daedric prince, Mehrunes Dagon, who was orchestrating this devastating incursion. Through incredible magic and sheer willpower, the apprentice succeeded in banishing the powerful Daedric prince back to the dark and treacherous wells of Oblivion. However, the victory came at a great cost. The tremendous magical forces unleashed during the battle resulted in the shattering of the battle spire itself, reducing it to ruin and ashes. In the aftermath, despite the Imperial Treasury's advice to the contrary, the Empire managed to recapture what remained of the battle spire. While the wire gates, a significant portal within the facility, still stood, the rest of the proving ground lay in ruins. Furthermore, the once accessible void gate, which had facilitated travel to the Oblivion realms, was rendered inoperable, closing off a significant and perilous pathway to those otherworldly domains. As the story of Talon progresses, Talon would successfully retrieve each piece of the staff. With each piece of the Staff of Chaos secured, the hero drew closer to unraveling the profound mysteries it held. The ultimate destination is the Imperial Palace. Here, the true showdown with Jaegor Thorn will unfold. Following the demise of Jaegor Thorn, Emperor Uriel Septim VII acknowledges Talon's valor and service to the Empire, bestowing upon him or her the title of Eternal Champion. In the vast and complex province of High Rock, the fate of empires and ancient powers hung in the balance. The stage was set in Iliac Bay, the turbulent waters between the province of High Rock and Hammerfell. The player, a trusted agent of the Emperor, arrived here with a dual mission. At the personal request of the Imperial ruler himself, Uriel Septim VII, the Emperor's directive was twofold. The first task was to release the restless spirit of King Lysandis from his earthly bounds. The troubled king's ghost haunted the land and his torment needed to be brought to an end. The second mission was to uncover the mystery surrounding a letter from the Emperor to the former Queen of Daggerfall. This letter contained a closely guarded secret, the location of the Mantella, a powerful artifact essential for the resurrection of the Numidium. This massive golem held the potential to reshape the balance of power in the region. The Emperor was eager to reconstruct it to further the Empire's interests. To do so, he needed to force a revelation from Lysandis' mother, Nulfaga, regarding the Mantella's whereabouts. However, the letter containing this critical information had fallen into the hands of an orc named Gortwarg, who remained unaware of its significance. In a twist of fate, Gortwarg sought the counsel of Menemarco, the infamous King of Worms and the leader of the Necromancers. Meanwhile, the Underking, who had initially destroyed the Numidium in the past due to Tiber Septim's misuse of its power, was recovering in a tomb in High Rock. The Underking had expanded immense energy during the first Numidium's destruction, and now he was poised to play a pivotal role in the unfolding events. For the player to gain control of the Mantella, they had to first put King Lysandis' murderer to rest. With this task accomplished, the player had to steal the totem of Tiber Septim from King Gethrid of Daggerfall, and liberate the Mantella from its prison in Netherius, a realm of great magical power. This marks the culmination of the journey, and the player was faced with a critical decision regarding the fate of the Mantella. Daggerfall offered several possible endings, each with far-reaching consequences. The first ending is if the player handed the Mantella to the Underking, he absorbed its power, achieving eternal rest, and creating a large magic-free zone around himself. If Gortwarg emerges victorious, he utilizes the Numidium to vanquish Imperial forces and the Bay of Kings, the rulers of the provinces in the Iliac Bay. The Underking intervened to destroy the first Numidium once and for all, at the cost of his own existence. Gortwarg would successfully establish Orsinium. If the Blades achieved triumph, they reconstructed the first Numidium and employed it to defeat the Bay of Kings and the Orcs, uniting all the provinces of Tamriel under Imperial rule once again. If any of the Bay Kings emerged victorious, they would employ the first Numidium to defeat their fellow rulers, only to be destroyed by the Underking thereafter. If Menemarco obtained the Mantella, he ascended to godhood, wielding its power to become a deity. In Morrowind, a great and perilous struggle unfolds. At the heart of this narrative is the Tribunal. These powerful entities have ruled Morrowind for centuries, but they now face a formidable adversary in Dagoth Ur, a demigod they once counted as ally. Dagoth leads the Sixth House, a cult that extends its influence from the fiery depths of the Red Mountain, which is the volcanic core of Vvardenfell, the island where the game's events transpire. Dagoth, through the use of the Heart of Lorkhan, a potent artifact, has achieved immortality and seeks to liberate Morrowind from the Imperial Legion's occupation by deploying his network of spies and an immense mechanical golem known as a Kulakhan, fueled by the Heart of Lorkhan. The tale begins with an unexpected arrival. After a stormy voyage and a strange dream vision, the player character arrives in Seydanin, a small coastal town freshly released from the mainland prison. This liberation was orchestrated by Emperor Uriel Septim VII, who has pulled some strings to set the player free. The Emperor's intention is clear. The player is tasked with seeking Caius Casades, a member of the Blades. Casades, acting under the Emperor's directives, initiates the player into the Blades and assigns a series of missions aimed at uncovering the mysterious happenings and revelations that have crippled the people of Vvardenfell, and notably involving the Sixth House and the Ashlander prophecies of the Nerevarine. As the story unfolds, it is revealed that the player's induction into the Blades and release from prison are not mere coincidences. The Emperor suspects that the player might be the Nerevarine, a reincarnation of the legendary Dwemer hero, Indoral Nerevar, or at the very least, someone who can convincingly impersonate this figure for political gain. The player is entrusted with unraveling the Nerevarine prophecies and fulfilling them to ultimately confront Dagoth and the Sixth House cult. According to the Ashlander prophecies, the Nerevarine must fulfill 7 distinct prophecies. The first 2 prophecies involve being born on a specific day, to uncertain parents, and being immune to corpus disease, a divine ailment crafted by Dagoth himself. The player character fulfills the first prophecy, and to meet the second, the player contracts the disease and survives an experimental cure. These accomplishments sets the stage for the player's quest to complete the third prophecy, which involves locating the moon and star, a symbolic ring originally worn by Nerevar. This ring possesses the unique power to instantly kill anyone who tries to wear it, except the rightful Nerevarine. Upon discovering and wearing the ring, the player receives a vision from Azura, the ancient Daedric prince of Dawn and Dusk, confirming the player's identity as Nerevar's incarnate. The Nerevarine proceeds to tackle the 4th and 5th trials, rallying the great houses of the Dwemer and uniting the Ashlanders of Vvardenfell under a common banner. After gaining the support and being declared Hortator by all the great houses and Nerevarine by all Ashlander tribes, the player is reluctantly recognized as Nerevarine by the Tribunal Temple, an organization that typically persecutes anyone making such claims. The Nerevarine is then invited to the Palace of Vivec. Here, the player is entrusted with a gauntlet, Wraithguard, an ancient Dwemer artifact that enables the use of the tools Sunder and Keening. These ancient weapons tap into the power of the legendary Heart of Lorkhan, which the Dwemer discovered beneath Red Mountain, and which the Tribunal and Dagoth have employed at attaining godlike status. The tools can also be used to destroy the Heart of Lorkhan, but without Wraithguard, they pose a fatal risk to the wielder. The player ventures deep into Red Mountain to confront Dagoth in his citadel. After the conversation with Dagoth who attempts to sway the player by claiming to follow Nerevar's final orders, a fierce battle ensues. Though the player prevails, it becomes evident that as long as the Heart of Lorkhan remains intact, Dagoth remains immortal. The player ultimately locates the Heart of Lorkhan and destroys it, severing Dagoth from his power and vanquishing him. In the process, the chamber containing a Kulakhan's heart is obliterated and Red Mountain is liberated from the Blight, marking the end of the Sixth House's reign. Azura herself appears to congratulate the Nerevarine for fulfilling the prophecy. The game's conclusion does not signal the end of the story, as Vvardenfell undergoes significant transformations. The Blightstorm cease, the followers of the Sixth House lose their corruption memories, and the dreamers who once harassed the Nerevarine fall silent. The Nerevarine is hailed as the savior of Vvardenfell, yet the most profound consequences of Dagoth defeat is the loss of divinity among the Tribunal, setting the stage for the game's first expansion, Tribunal, where the fate of Almalexia, Sothasil, and Vivec hangs in the balance. In Vvardenfell, while going about their business, the Nerevarine's journey takes an unexpected and sinister turn when an assassin suddenly attacks the Nerevarine. This assassin is later revealed to be a member of the Dark Brotherhood. The player's encounter with the Dark Brotherhood raises questions and concerns about the enigmatic organization, prompting them to dig deeper into the mysterious assassination attempt. To uncover more about the Dark Brotherhood, the player is directed to Mournhold, the capital of Morrowind. Once there, the player's quest leads them to the leader of the Dark Brotherhood. Along the way, they undertake various side quests and assist the new king, Helseth, and Almalexia, the living god who rules over Morrowind. During the player's stay in Mournhold, an unexpected and alarming incident occurs. A group of mechanical creatures known as Fabricants suddenly launches an attack in the Plaza Brindisi Dorom area. These strange creatures emerge from hidden passage beneath a statue in the plaza, leading to an ancient Dwemer ruin. Given the mechanical nature of these assailants, suspicions arise that the reclusive god Sothasil is somehow involved in this shocking assault. To get to the bottom of this mystery, the player delves into the ruins and undertakes a series of quests to reconstruct the lost sword of Nerevar, known as True Flame. With this newly acquired weapon in hand, the player is dispatched on a mission to the Clockwork City, a surreal and intricate mechanical realm with the intent of eliminating Sothasil. Within the Clockwork City, the player embarks on a journey to confront Sothasil, only to discover him dead. As they exit the Clockwork City, Almalexia appears and makes a startling confession. She admits to killing Sothasil and orchestrating the attack in Mournhold. Her motive is to seize more power and control over her subjects and the tribunal, driven to madness by the heart of Lord Khan. In a climactic and heartbreaking moment, the player is left with no choice but to face Almalexia in a final battle, leading to her demise. After defeating her, the player returns to Mournhold. As the player exits Almalexia's temple in Mournhold, they are visited by Azura, who reveals the truth behind Almalexia's descent into madness. Azura explains that the heart of Lorkhan had driven Almalexia mad and stoked her insatiable hunger for power. The player's actions, which include destroying the heart of Lorkhan and putting an end to Almalexia's reign, are pivotal in fulfilling the Nerevarine prophecies, particularly the prophecy concerning the demise of the Almsylvi Tribunal. In the chilling tale of the Blood Moon expansion's main quest, the player's journey begins on the icy island of Solstheim, working on various tasks for the Imperials based on Fort Frostmoth. Solstheim is a harsh and unforgiving place, and the player is no stranger to hard work. One fateful day, as the player is going about their duties at the fort, it is suddenly besieged by a savage and terrifying force, werewolves. These creatures, the stuff of nightmares, launch a relentless assault on Fort Frostmoth, putting everyone in grave danger. In the face of this relentless assault, the player's only option is to escape. They embark on a perilous journey to the far northern reaches of the island, where they find respite in the Nord village of the Skull. However, gaining the trust and acceptance of the Skull is not a simple task. The player is required to perform a series of ancient and sacred rituals, proving their commitment to the Skull way of life. Once accepted into the village, the player learns of a dark and a forbidding prophecy known as the Blood Moon Prophecy. This prophecy is tied to the sinister Daedric prince named Hircine. According to the prophecy, Hircine leads a ritualistic and deadly hunt, during which he selects the 4 greatest champions on Solstheim, including the player, to participate. These champions are transported to Hircine's icy glacier home, a desolate and treacherous place where they are informed of the gruesome rules of the hunt. They must battle one another relentlessly with the ultimate goal of survival. Only the last champion standing will be spared, and that champion must face one of Hircine's aspects. A manifestation of his power in the form of a bear representing strength, an elk representing speed, or even Hircine himself representing guile and cunning. Should the player emerge victorious in this harrowing trial against one of Hircine's aspects, they must then confront an even greater challenge. The glacier begins to crumble and fall apart, setting the stage for a frantic escape. Overcoming this perilous situation becomes the player's ultimate goal, marking the completion of the Blood Moon's main quest and sealing their place in Solstice's dark and supernatural history. Now, honestly, I did not know when to talk about Queen Berenzia, mainly because she pretty much lived throughout the entirety of the Third Era, and was born during the Second Era. She outlived every member of the Septim dynasty, so yeah, I would rather place her here, during the time of the Elder Scrolls 3 Morrowind, because that's pretty much the last time we see her. So anyways, let's continue. Berenzia is a complex figure in Tamriel's history. She had a life filled with twists and turns, secrets and political intrigue. Her story starts with her early childhood when her parents, the rulers of Mournhold, left to wage war against Tiber Septim. Berenzia was taken from the palace by her nurse, but soon found herself alone, passed from person to person until she became the ward of the Count of Darkmoor. Her parents' absence left a void, and she resorted to thievery and minor magic as a way of coping with her situation. As she grew older, Baron Zaya became pernicious and developed a strong disdain for the Count and Countesses of Darkmoor, whom she considered pretentious. The Countess Inga in particular treated her poorly because of her race. Baron Zaya's life took an unexpected turn when she felt that something sinister was planned for her by the couriers who inspected her monthly. This feeling led her to flee with her lover, Straw, and they embarked on a journey to the east. After entering Whiterun and spending a week burglarizing homes, she and Straw joined a caravan, engaging in various affairs along the way. In Riften, Baron Zaya sought out Theris, a member of the Thieves Guild, and offered her services in exchange for a membership. During a burglary in the Imperial Commandment's house, she encountered General Symmachus, who revealed the truth of her situation. However, his promises of safety for Straw and Theris were broken, leading to dire consequences for both. Baron Zaya eventually began an affair with Emperor Tiber Septim, but her unexpected pregnancy led to a forced abortion. Despite this, she maintained a strong political relationship with the Emperor. After Tiber's death, Symmachus proposed to Baron Zaya and they married. Their union was politically advantageous and personally rewarding. In the 376th year of the Third Era, Baron Zaya was charmed by a bard named Nightingale, who used her to steal the Staff of Chaos from the ancestral shrine in the mines of Mournhold. Symmachus, her husband, arrived too late to prevent the theft but covered up her involvement. Baron Zaya's past with the Nightingale resurfaced in the 391st year of the Third Era when she recognized an impostor as the same Nightingale. Baron Zaya's life continued to be marked by intrigue and complexity as her relationship with the Nightingale took an unexpected turn. She eventually fled with King Eadwire to Wayrest and had a son. Their marriage took place a year later. Baron Zaya's story was further complicated by the publication of The Real Baron Zaya, a controversial biography that she vehemently opposed. Her efforts to suppress the book were not entirely successful, and it circulated with some sexually explicit details censored. In her later years, Baron Zaya returned to Morrowind as Queen Mother, and despite her retirement, rumors persisted that she held considerable influence. Her son, King Helseth, was thought by some to be a mere puppet of her power. The rumors were fueled by adept manipulation of propaganda and secrets. She continued to play a role in the political intrigues of Morrowind. Our story unfolds within the dark confines of the Imperial prison in the Imperial City. It is here that the player character is held, locked away from the outside world. Little did they know that fate had a grand and perilous adventure in store for them. In a twist of destiny, Emperor Uriel Septim VII, the ruler of the Empire, finds himself in a dire predicament. He is being pursued by assassins who have already claimed the lives of his sons. Desperately fleeing from his pursuers, the Emperor's escape route leads him to the very cell where our protagonist is confined. By a stroke of chance, or perhaps something more, the player's cell becomes the unlikely gateway to freedom. During this harrowing escape, Emperor Uriel Septim VII imparts a revelation to the player. He claims to have seen them in his dreams and entrusts them with the precious heirloom, the Amulets of Kings. The Emperor's parting words instruct the player to seek out a monk named Geoffrey and deliver the amulet into his care. Unfortunately, before further guidance can be given, the assassins catch up to Septim and assassinate him. Once the player locates Geoffrey, they receive distressing news. Emperor Septim had an illegitimate son named Martin, who now lives as a monk in the city of Kvatch. In a cruel twist of fate, Martin is the last remaining heir to the imperial throne. The fate of the empire hangs in the balance, and it is now Martin's responsibility to use the Amulet of Kings to kindle the dragonfires, mystical flames that safeguard Cyrodiil from the Daedra, malevolent beings from the realm of Oblivion. The journey takes the player to Kvatch, but upon arrival, they find the city besieged by Daedric forces. The invaders are pouring through a portal known as the Oblivion Gate. The player courageously ventures into the gate, removes the sigil stone anchoring it, and closes the portal from within. Returning to Kvatch, they assist the beleaguered soldiers in repelling the remaining Daedra and finally meet Martin. Together they embark on a perilous quest to ensure Martin's safety. Their path takes them to Cloud Ruler Temple, a hidden fortress nestled within the mountains, and the secret headquarters of the Blades, the elite protectors of the Emperor. As Martin trains to ascend to the throne, the player is tasked with infiltrating the Mythic Dawn, the cult responsible for the Emperor's assassination. Their leader, Mankar Cameron, is a malevolent figure who worships Mehrunes Dagon, the Daedric Lord of Destruction. Dagon seeks to plunge the world into chaos by opening Oblivion gates near major cities, unleashing his demonic minions upon the land. A pivotal moment in the journey occurs when the player witnesses Cameron stepping through a portal to his own realm, Paradise, carrying the Amulet of Kings with him. Although they were unable to prevent Cameron's escape, they seize his book, the Mysterium Xarxes. This text holds the key to unraveling the mysteries of Cameron's dark plots, and the player returns to Martin. With the weight of the world in their shoulders, the player helps the cities of Cyrodiil in their desperate struggle to close the Oblivion gates. A fierce battle ensues as Daedric forces seek to gain control over Bruma, a city that stands on the brink of destruction. The story reaches its climax when the player enters Paradise, confronts Cameron, and brings his sinister reign to an end. In their possession is the ultimate prize, the Amulet of Kings. In a final and cataclysmic battle, Martin transforms himself into the avatar of the great dragon god of time, Akatosh, and clashes with Mehrunes Dagon. Their titanic struggle ultimately results in Dagon's banishment back to Oblivion, securing the safety of Cyrodiil and perhaps all of Tamriel. However, this heroic sacrifice comes at a steep cost, as Martin loses his own life in the process. While peace is restored to the world, the throne of the Empire remains empty, and the fate of the Emperor's lineage lies in uncertainty. This would mark the 433rd year as the last year of the Third Era. Our tale begins as the player approaches the Chapel of Dibella in the coastal city of Anvil. What they encounter is a scene of desecration and violence. The chapel had been defiled and all present had met a grisly end. This horrifying event marks the start of an epic quest that will call upon the player's faith, courage, and valor. In the aftermath of the chapel's desecration, the player consults a prophet near the scene of the tragedy. This wise figure reveals that the malevolent force responsible for this destruction is none other than Umril himself, an ancient Ayleid sorcerer king. Umril, who was banished to the realm of Oblivion, has escaped his prison with a nefarious intent to bring ruin to the lands of Cyrodiil. The prophet further discloses that only a crusader, one who is favored by the gods and bears the relics of Pelennor Whitestrake, can hope to thwart Umril's dark ambitions. The player's journey takes a profound turn as they embark on a cleansing pilgrimage to 9 sacred shrines scattered across Cyrodiil. Each shrine represents a different deity among the 9, the gods of Cyrodiil. By making this pilgrimage and showing unwavering devotion, the player seeks the favor of the divines. Upon successfully completing the pilgrimage, the player receives a vision of the spirit of Pelennor Whitestrake. Whitestrake reveals the location of his tomb, concealed beneath the lake surrounding the Imperial City. It is here that the player discovers the Crusader's Helm, one of the precious Crusader relics that once belonged to Whitestrake. In their quest, the player encounters the lifeless body of Sir Emil, a valiant knight of the Nine. His diary discloses the existence of the Priory of the Nine, a secretive place housing the Crusader's cuirass. To gain access to the Priory and the valuable Crusader's cuirass, the player must prove their worthiness. They must engage in single combat with the spirits of the original Knights of the Nine, who have long passed into the afterlife. This trial demonstrates the player's dedication to the cause, and upon completion, they are granted the prized Crusader cuirass. The spirits of the departed knights also provide clues about the last known locations of the remaining relics. With the 8 of the Crusader relics in their possession, each corresponding to one of the original 8 gods, the player is granted the blessing of Talos, the 9th deity. This divine blessing is a pivotal gift as it empowers the player not only to banish Umril to Oblivion, but to obliterate him entirely. Joined by newly recruited NPCs who have pledged their support and now form the new Knights of the Nine, the player embarks on an audacious assault on Umril's formidable stronghold. A climactic showdown unfolds as the player confronts Umril in the physical realm, engaging in a fierce duel, then wielding the blessing of Talos. They follow Umril into the spirit world, where his essence is ultimately destroyed. The player awakens in the Priory of the Nine, surrounded by their fellow knights. It is here that they learn that their own body had been found in Umarl's stronghold. The player's miraculous resurrection is attributed to the divine intervention of the Nine. The quest concludes and the player's journey as the Knight of the Nine comes to a triumphant end, with the forces of darkness vanquished and the land of Cyrodiil once more bathed in the light of hope and salvation.
The Crusader has rid the world of Umaril forever! Hail the Lord Crusader!
Hail the power of the Lord Crusader is arisen!
Well met.
Our story continues in a realm as whimsical and unpredictable as the Daedric prince who governs it, the Shivering Isles, ruled by the enigmatic and eccentric Daedric prince of madness Sheogorath. The Shivering Isles are a realm divided into two distinct regions, Mania and Dementia, each bearing its own unique and peculiar characteristics in both art and design. As the player enters this surreal domain, they do so at a time of great significance, the impending event known as the Grey March. This event signifies the arrival of the Daedric Prince of Order, Jiggalag, whose sole purpose is to obliterate the Shivering Isles entirely. Initially, the player's access is limited to a specific area within the Shivering Isles known as the Fringe. To explore the other portions of this whimsical realm, the player must confront and defeat the formidable guardian creature known as the Gatekeeper. Before the player embarks on their quest to halt the Grey March, they are summoned for an audience with the mad god Sheogorath. In this whimsical and often confusing manner, Sheogorath reveals the dire consequences of the impending Grey March, explaining that it will result in the utter destruction of the Shivering Isles. To prevent this calamity, Sheogorath has a peculiar and conventional solution in mind. He needs a champion. The player character, selected by Sheogorath to be his protege, is entrusted with the challenging task of thwarting the Grey March. To achieve this, they are sent on a series of unpredictable and often absurd quests, all designed to halt the impending doom that threatens Sheogorath's realm. Despite Sheogorath's and the player's valiant efforts to thwart the Grey March, they ultimately prove unsuccessful. At a crucial moment, Sheogorath undergoes a dramatic transformation, revealing that Jiggalag is in fact his alter ego. As Sheogorath metamorphoses into Jiggalag, he disappears from the realm entirely. The player is left to fend off the onslaught of the forces of order, who invade the Court of Madness with the intent of imposing the rigid order upon the realm. The player faces off against Jiggalag, the Daedric Prince of Order. After a fierce battle, they succeeded in defeating Jiggalag, causing the Grey March to come in an abrupt halt. With Jiggalag's defeat, he reveals a profound truth to the player. In the distant past, when the Daedric princes were creating their own domains, Jiggalag's immense power and the rapid expansion of his realm caused fear and jealousy among the other Daedric princes. In response, they cursed Jiggalag with madness, transforming him into Sheogorath, the Prince of Madness. As a consequence of the Daedric Prince's curse, Jiggalag was destined to relive the Grey March at the end of each era, only to be transformed back to Sheogorath. Following this revelation, Jiggalag expresses his gratitude to the player for breaking the cycle. He anoints the player as the new Sheogorath, making them the Prince of Madness and the ruler of the Shivering Isles. Thus, the player's journey through this whimsical realm and their quest to thwart the Grey March culminates in a surreal and unexpected twist, leaving them as the new lord of this ever-shifting and unpredictable domain. The fifth year following the events of the Oblivion crisis emerged as a period marked by significant turmoil and widespread devastation in Morrowind. The fifth year came to be known as the Red Year, a title etched in the minds of all who witnessed the calamity. The seeds of this cataclysm were sown years later with the mysterious disappearance of Vivec. The absence of Vivec had significant consequences, particularly of the floating rock city of Vivec City itself. Vivec had maintained a delicate balance, keeping the massive celestial object Bardau suspended in the sky above the city. Bardau was a moonlet, and without Vivec's influence, it was no longer tethered to the heavens. In an attempt to preserve his beloved, a Dwemer named Sul unwittingly triggered a chain of events that led to disaster. Sul destroyed an apparatus known as the Ingenium, which had been empowered by the souls of the departed to hold Bardau in check. With the destruction of the Ingenium, the moon plummeted to the earth with the same force it possessed during its original descent, causing unimaginable chaos. The impact of Bardau in Vivec City was catastrophic. The city itself was obliterated, reduced to nothing but scorched earth and the churning, searing waters now infamous as Scathing Bay. This was merely the beginning of the tragedy. Countless towns and cities across Morrowind bore the brunt of this catastrophic event. Places like Aldrun, Belmora, Nisus, Cedrith Mora, and even Fort Frostmoth in the distant lands of Solstheim were razed to the ground. The devastation was not confined to Morrowind alone. Far-reaching shockwaves echoed through neighboring regions. Earthquakes and massive floods wreaked havoc in settlements like Tyr to the south of Blackmarsh. In the immediate aftermath, the surviving Dwemer found themselves in a state of dire need. Many Dwemer who had left their homeland returned to assist their people despite the harsh and unbreathable atmosphere. Major relief efforts were spearheaded by House Redoran, and gradually some semblance of normalcy was restored to the afflicted land. Towns like Belmora were rebuilt in the years that followed, demonstrating the indomitable spirit of the Dwemer people. However, amidst the chaos, the Argonians from the marshes of Blackmarsh saw the opportunity for vengeance. For generations, they had been enslaved by the Dwemer, and the Argonians' army seized the chance to retaliate, inflicting suffering on southern Morrowind. In the wake of this calamity, countless Dwemer were displaced, fleeing their homeland in the search for refuge. Many sought sanctuary in distant lands, with a significant number making their way to Skyrim and the small island of Solstheim northwest of Vardenfell. Over time, the Argonians withdrew from their conquered territories, but the rebuilding process for the Dwemer was arduous. While the city of Mournhold was gradually reconstructed, the capital of Mournhold was permanently relocated to the Redren stronghold of Blacklight in the far north. The Red Year had left an indelible mark on the land and its people, forever altering the course of history in the province of Morrowind. The Stormcrown Interregnum spanned from the 10th to the 17th of the 4th Era and marked a tumultuous period during the early years of the 4th Era. The catalyst for this upheaval was the assassination of Potentate Okato, an event that triggered a frenzied competition for the Ruby Throne. In the aftermath of the Oblivion crisis, the Elder Council found itself unable to identify a suitable heir to the Imperial throne. Consequently, High Chancellor Okato reluctantly assumed the role of Potentate. However, the Elder Council's leadership was far from ideal, and their efforts to stabilize the Empire and its provinces were somewhat ineffective. Skyrim teetered on the brink of secession, while other provinces grappled with their unique internal and external challenges. The storm cloud of unrest gathered with the assassination of Okato in the 10th year of the 4th Era, giving birth to the Stormcrown Interregnum. The Elder Council fractured, leading to years of ruthless infighting, conspiracies, and betrayals. Numerous contenders emerged, each striving to lay claim to the Ruby Throne. During this tumultuous period, reports emerged of violent otherworldly storms, repeatedly assaulting the Imperial city, with the eye of the storm ominously centered upon the White Gold Tower. Thul's the Gibbering, while not a universally popular ruler, found favor among some in the council due to his Nemesis leadership, which contrasted with the idea of a Colovian usurper seizing power. The chaos and discord only subsided with Titus Mede, a Colovian leader, successfully captured the Imperial city in the 17th year of the 4th Era, thereby claiming the throne. In short order, Titus Mede I emerged victorious in a decisive battle against another contender for the Ruby Throne, Adar Olin. Mede's chief minister, Hiram, hailing from an ancient Nibonese family with extensive connections, played a crucial role in facilitating the transition of power. He skillfully convinced the council to perceive Mede as a liberator rather than a conqueror, and bring an end to the turbulent Stormcrown Interregnum. The culmination of the Oblivion crisis marked a pivotal turning point as the 3rd Era came to an end, casting a long shadow of instability over the Empire. Amidst the turmoil and weakened state of the Empire, a strategic opportunity arose for the formation of the Third Aldmeri Dominion. The Thalmor, a faction within the Altmer society that had long been marginalized and upheld the belief in Elven supremacy, seized this moment to reshape their destiny. They strategically portrayed themselves as the saviors of the Somerset Isles during the crisis, effectively garnering the support of the Altmer populace. With the Empire facing internal disarray and unable to assert its authority, the Thalmor's influence and popularity surged. In the 22nd year of the Fourth Era, the Thalmor capitalized on their growing power and took complete control over the Somerset Isles. This bold move solidified their position as the dominant authority in the region. Only 7 years later, a Thalmor support coup orchestrated the overthrow of Valenwood's existing government, successfully driving out Imperial forces and their Bosmer allies. Following these momentous events, Eleanor and Valenwood declared a union, marking the birth of the Third Ealdmeri Dominion. The resurgence of this powerful alliance redefined the political landscape of Tamriel and set the stage for significant changes in the Fourth Era. Umbriel is a mysterious floating island that resided within the unique pocket realm of Oblivion. This remarkable landmass had been separated from the Fields of Regret, a domain belonging to the Daedric prince Clavicus Vile, through the intervention of the Daedric artifact known as Umbra. The island's architecture was truly a sight to behold. Its buildings were seemingly carved into the rock, while castles dangle from intricate cables and towers perched on the island's rim appeared as if they were crafted from spun glass. This amalgamation of structures gave Umbriel an otherworldly and enchanting appearance. As Umbriel first made its dramatic appearance in the realm of Tamriel, it was a phenomenon witnessed by a few bewildered souls. Among those who beheld this spectacle were 3 sailors, Ifek, Kim, and Graina. These extraordinary events was also unveiled to Sul through vivid dreams sent by Daedric Prince Azura. Meanwhile, another sailor, Ixta Nasha, shared captivating tales of the floating city with his cousin, Amirglim. These accounts of the surreal city in the sky captivated the imagination of Oinag Hoinart when Amirglim recounted them to her. Anaig, eager to experience the wonders of Umbriel for herself, was determined to avoid her father's efforts to send her to Leowyn. In a twist of fate, Mirglim, who had rescued Anaig from her father's forceful intentions, found himself mysteriously drawn towards Umbriel, fearing that she might be ensnared by the city's irresistible allure. Anaig used a flying potion on both of them. Unable to resist the city's pull, Mirglim was helplessly carried towards Umbriel, where they soon found themselves upon the floating island. Umbriel's awe-inspiring levitation was powered by a newly devised version of the Ingenium, a remarkable machine that Vohon, its creator, had ingeniously fashioned. Vohon had harnessed the power of a piece of Oblivion from Clavicus Vile's realm, effectively enabling the city's miraculous flight. This achievement rendered obsolete the protective barrier that had been constructed to prevent both Vuhon and the Daedric artifact Umbra from escaping. The people residing below Umbriel, particularly those in the city of Lilmoth, met a tragic fate as they were sacrificed to power the Ingenium. Their life force was drained to sustain the city's levitation, fulfilling a grim pact made with Umbra. Umbriel exhibited a distinct architectural design, taking on the form of a general cone with its narrow end situated at the bottom. The lowermost part was known as the sump, while the outer edges referred to as the fringe gyre. The lofty palaces of the higher lords were perched around the uppermost region of Umbriel. Residents of Umbriel, known as Umbrielans, bore an uncanny resemblance to the various races of Tamriel. These enigmatic beings experience a unique life cycle, as they were born into fully developed adult bodies but lived relatively short lives. A 10 to 15-year-old Umbrielian was already considered advanced in age. Upon death, their souls underwent a cyclical process of reincarnation, transmigrating into new bodies. Regrettably, they did not retain the memories of their previous existence. The Void Nights, spanning from the 98th to the 100th year of the Fourth Era, marked a perplexing and disconcerting period of history of Tamriel. During this time, the 2 lunar bodies that orbited Nirn, known as Masser and Secunda, inexplicably vanished from the night sky. This celestial phenomenon gave rise to considerable bewilderment and uncertainty throughout the continent, eventually contributing to the unfolding of the Great War, a significant conflict. While the disappearance of the moons had a profound impact across Tamriel, its effects were particularly profound in Elsewhere. For the Khajiit, both culturally and biologically, the presence of Masser and Secunda held great significance. The phases of these moons played a pivotal role in determining the specific breed of Khajiit born at any given time. As a result, the absence of the moons brought about considerable distress and uncertainty within the Khajiit society. After 2 long celestial absence, the Thalmor announced that they had successfully restored the moons, employing a hitherto unknown form of magic called dawn magics. This purported restoration of the lunar bodies raised questions and debates, with some pondering whether the Thalmor had genuinely brought back the moons, or had they merely capitalized on their foreknowledge that the celestial bodies would reappear. The Great Collapse unfolded in the city of Winterhold in the 122nd year of the Fourth Era. It all began with an eerie awakening of the Sea of Ghosts, as monstrous waves started to assail the city's shores. The relentless force of these waves ultimately led to the devastation of the entire districts within Winterhold. In the end, the city faced a tragic fate as it crumbled into the sea. Only a few structures managed to endure the disaster, including the Jarl's Longhouse, a few adjacent houses, and the College of Winterhold itself. Rumors began to circulate among the Nords, raising suspicions about the college. Some questioned whether the college was somehow involved in the calamity, while others pondered if it possessed the capability to prevent it through magical means. The exact cause of the Great Collapse remains shrouded in mystery. While no definitive answers have emerged, there were speculations that the eruption of Red Mountain, which occurred some years prior, may have triggered far-reaching consequences that took time to manifest. The lingering questions surrounding this disaster continue to haunt Winterhold, casting a somber shadow over its history. The Great War was a tumultuous and transformative period. This conflict was set into motion by the Thalmor and a series of actions that greatly impacted the stability of the continent. After the Oblivion crisis that shook the Somerset Isles and weakened the Imperial presence, the Thalmor seized an opportunity to strengthen their influence. In the stark contrast, the Empire of Cyrodiil was experiencing a steady decline in power and territorial control. By the 168th year of the Fourth Era, the Empire had lost several provinces, including Blackmarsh, Elsewhere, Valenwood, and Morrowind, and Hammerfell was pledged by internal conflicts. This situation reached a breaking point in the 171st year of the Fourth Era, when the Thalmor, displeased with the Empire's weakening hold, sent an ultimatum to the Empire's demanding tributes, land and disbandment of the Blades, and the ban of Talos worship. The Emperor's refusal led to the outbreak of the Great War. The conflict began with the swift advance of the two Thalmor armies. One led by Lady Arenelia entered Cyrodiil from Valenwood and then moved on to Hammerfell. The other, commanded by Thalmor General Lord Narafin, invaded from Elsewhere and advanced through Cyrodiil, capturing key cities and ultimately besieging the Imperial city itself. The Imperial Navy had forces from Skyrim attempted to defend the city, but the Thalmor's strategic positioning and relentless assaults resulted in the fall of the Imperial city in the 174th year of the Fourth Era. The Emperor Titus Mede II fled to Skyrim after an assassin's attack. As the conflict raged on, political factions across Tamriel remained active. In Skyrim, the Reachmen seized Markarth and the Reach during their empire's absence, while in Hammerfell, General Decianus led an effective resistance against the Thalmor's advances. In the 175th year of the Fourth Era, after much destruction and loss, the Emperor regrouped and, with the assistance of the Forgotten Hero, launched a decisive counteroffensive. The hero, masquerading as the Emperor, confronted Lord Narafin and thwarted his nefarious plan to enact a prophecy called the Calling. This victory marked a turning point in the Great War. Following the recapture of the Imperial city, a peace treaty known as the White Gold Concordat was signed in the 175th year of the Fourth Era. This treaty mirrored the Thalmor's initial demands and brought about the banning of Talos worship, a contentious point of many Nords. Local leaders such as the Jarls of Skyrim were compensated for their cooperation, but faced strong opposition. The White Gold Concordat disbanded the Blades, ceded parts of southern Hammerfell to the Thalmor, and led to the suppression of Talos worship. These terms stirred discontent in various regions, eventually contributing to the Skyrim Civil War. The Great War had far-reaching consequences, and many legionnaires transitioned with new roles or joined political movements, while King Durak Grobotul and his loyal soldiers from Bloodfall remained loyal to the Empire throughout the war. The conflict reshaped the political landscape of Tamriel, leaving lasting scars and repercussions for years to come. In the 174th year of the Fourth Era, during the Great War, When the empire was stretched thin and unable to maintain its outer provinces, a group of reachmen, led by a man named Merethic, who would later become their king, initiated an uprising that would become known as the Forsworn Uprising. Their aim was to gain control of the Reach and establish an independent kingdom free from imperial rule. Remarkably, the Reachmen managed their kingdom relatively peacefully, only resulting to execution a few of the harshest Nord landowners. After 2 years, their experiment with independence seemed to be a success. They even began to process the seeking recognition from the Empire. However, during the 176th year of the Fourth Era, Jarl Hrolfdir, who had been previously ousted, made a desperate bid to retake the Reach. The Empire had no imperial legions available due to the demands of the Great War, so Hrolfdir enlisted the aid of a Nord militia led by Ulfric Stormcloak. Hrolfdir promised the militia that they could freely worship Talos if they helped him regain control over the Reach. During the year, the Nord militia, under the leadership of Ulfric Stormcloak, successfully drove the Reachmen from the city of Markarth and reclaimed the Reach. They executed officials who had worked for the Forsworn, as well as those citizens who hadn't joined Ulfric's forces. This includes Nords, the elderly, and even children considered old enough to fight. Some natives were also tortured into revealing the names of rebels who fled into the wilds. The survivors of this uprising, the Forsworn, had disappeared across the Reach, fortifying any defensible positions they could find. In the wilds, they were operated as a kind of terrorist organization structured into cells, often led by Hagraven matrons or Briarheart warriors. The ongoing conflict caused considerable confusion and hardship for the Reachmen, who were not aligned with the Forsworn. Many native landowners found themselves under duress from both the Nords and the Forsworn, with each group mistakenly believing the individuals were working for the other side. The Forsworn, who had taken up arms for the lost cause, left many Reachmen grieving for their friends and loved ones who fought and died in the conflict. During the events of the Elder Scrolls Legends, the player is cast in the role of the Forgotten Hero, an individual of great significance in the face of dire threat. The story unfolds against the backdrop of the invasion of Cyrodiil, the heart of the Empire, by a formidable high elf named Narafin. The ultimate goal is to reach the White Gold Tower, where Narafin plans to unleash the Daedra. This vile scheme is driven by the ancestor Elder Scroll prophecies, referred to as the Culling, which foretells this cataclysmic event. Throughout the adventure, the player faces a series of choices that significantly influences the direction of the story. These choices determine the unfolding events and the cards they acquire as rewards. The fate of Cyrodiil and the Empire rests in the hands of the Forgotten Hero as they strive to thwart Narafin's dark ambitions. Following the aftermath of the Great War, the player steps into the shoes of a resilient former member of the legendary Blades. However, in the wake of the Great War, the player were not only outlawed but ruthlessly disbanded and hunted down by the Thalmor. As the player seeks refuge in their hometown, they were met with the devastating aftermath of a calamity indirectly caused by a group of hired mercenaries. These ruthless individuals were in the employ of the Bloodfall Queen, Urzoga Grobatul of the Orsimer, tasked with collecting taxes from the town. One of the mercenaries inadvertently desecrates a fabled Ayleid statue. This statue concealed a hidden tunnel leading to an ancient crypt beneath the town. Within this crypt rested Celemeril Lightbringer, an Ayleid sorcerer king from the First Era, who was known for his mastery of necromancy and once ruled over vast lands in Tamriel. Freed from his tomb, this undead sorcerer king wreaks havoc upon the town, unleashing a horde of undead horrors including skeletons, spiders, goblins, trolls, and wights. The land is plunged into chaos. The player's quest is clear. They must navigate treacherous dungeons, castles, ruins, forts, and forests. Their mission encompasses rescuing missing villagers, aiding in the town's reconstruction, pursuing the mercenaries, and unearthing the mystery surrounding the Sorcerer King. Throughout their journey, the player must also navigate the intricate web of political intrigue, reuniting with their former mentor, the Nord human Henrik Sevenswords. In this perilous adventure, they must tread carefully for Thalmor agents or never far behind. As the player delves deeper into their quest, they discover their Bloodfall Queen is embroiled in a conflict with a group known as the Greencap Bandits, adding further layers of the complexity and danger to their odyssey. Following his arrest during the Markarth incident, Ulfric's father, Hogue Stormcloak, the Bear of Eastmarch, passed away in the 183rd year of the Fourth Era while Ulfric remained incarcerated. Despite the bars that separated him from his father's final moments, Ulfric managed to smuggle out a heartfelt eulogy honoring his father's memory. When freedom finally embraced Ulfric, he returned to the city of Windhelm, where he inherited his father's mantle as Jarl. His destiny is now intertwined with the fate of Skyrim. It didn't take long for the members of the rebellion to ignite. Initially, this uprising consisted of minor skirmishes, a reflection of the smoldering tension between the Stormcloaks and the Imperial forces. Jarl Bolgraf of Whiterun, a respected leader, initially chose neutrality, refraining from taking sides in the ongoing conflict that would soon sweep across Skyrim. The death of High King Islod was a turning point. Even amid the chaos of civil war, the Moot was summoned, and young Torrig, Islod's son, was named the new High King. Ulfric seized the opportunity at the Moot to express his fervent desire of Skyrim's independence from the Empire. His charismatic words, unwavering resolve, swayed even Torrig, who held him in high regard due to his valor in previous conflicts. Yet what happened next remains a topic of fierce debate. Ulfric maintained that he used the Thu'um to defeat Torrig in their duel and then finished him with a sword. Whispers among the people, however, suggested that Ulfric's shout had more devastating consequences, tearing the young king apart. Ulfric's supporters argued that Torrig was a traitor to his people, deserving of his fate. His detractors, on the other hand, decried the challenge as dishonorable, viewing Torrig's death as nothing less than cold-blooded murder. The age and limited martial training of the High King Torrig only added to the controversy. Torrig's untimely death marked a pivotal moment in Skyrim's history, one that would fuel Ulfric's claims of the province's need to break free from the Empire, asserting that Skyrim could stand stronger on its own. In the 188th year of the Fourth Era, we find our protagonist, the forgotten hero, at the crossroads of an unexpected proposition. Uther Nir, a merchant of notable influence, seeks the service of the hero as a clandestine operative. His request is no trivial matter. He desires the hero to embark on a perilous mission involving the enigmatic and sinister Dark Brotherhood. The roots of Uther's motivations run deep within personal tragedy. His beloved daughter has taken a dark and unforgivable path, one that led her to commit a heinous act, the murder of her own mother. Her sinister intent was to become part of the notorious Dark Brotherhood, a secret society infamous for its clandestine and lethal activities. Asking the forgotten hero to walk a treacherous road, Uther implores them to infiltrate the secretive ranks of the Dark Brotherhood. The mission is twofold: uncover the secrets of this shadowy organization and bring justice to Uther's fallen wife by finding and ultimately eliminating their daughter, who has been consumed by the darkness of the Dark Brotherhood. With morality and honor hanging in the balance, the forgotten hero undertakes this mission, destined to confront challenges and choices that will test the very essence of their character. As they delve deeper into the web of intrigue and secrecy, the hero must navigate a perilous path, where every step could be their last in this dangerous world of assassins and secrets. Once a thriving metropolis, the Clockwork City had fallen into a state of disrepair and abandonment following the demise of its creator, Sotha Sil. This once great city was now withering under the relentless passage of time. Sotha Sil was the genius behind the Clockwork City. He had crafted this intricate and mechanical realm to serve a multitude of purposes. However, with his passing, the city's grandeur began to fade, much like the gears and mechanisms that powered its intricate machinery. As the Fourth Era unfolded, the Clockwork City had transformed into a shadow of its former self. The once bustling streets and cog-driven buildings had succumbed to the relentless march of time, becoming desolate and eerie. The city's mechanisms, which had once hummed with life, now creak and groan in despair. The story that played out in the decaying city was a tale of mystery, exploration, and discovery. As the city's secrets began to unravel, adventurers and explorers were drawn to its abandoned streets. They embarked on a journey to understand the city's past and perhaps even unlock its hidden potential. In the midst of an atmospheric and labyrinthine cityscape, the story unfolded, revealing the impact of Sotha Sil's absence and the challenges faced by those who ventured into the Clockwork City. It was a narrative that painted a picture of a once great metropolis, now lost in the ravages of time, yet still holding within its intricate gears those of its past glory.
you. Finally awake.
In the lands of Skyrim, a fierce civil war was tearing the nation apart. The Imperial soldiers loyal to the Empire had captured Ulfric Stormcloak, the leader of the rebellious Stormcloaks. Among those present was an innocent prisoner, mistakenly believed to be a rebel due to being caught up in the skirmish. They were all set to face execution by the Empire. Before the executioner's blade could fall, the skies erupted in a chaos as Alduin, the World Eater, an ancient and fearsome dragon, descended upon the Imperial outpost. Flames and destruction rained down from its maw. In the midst of this chaos, the player found an unexpected savior in Alduin himself, who unleashed his wrath upon the Imperial soldiers. The player managed to escape the fiery chaos and fled, alive but bewildered. Player's first act was to warn Jarl Bolgraf of Whiterun about the dragon attack. Soon after, another dragon, different from Alduin, attacked the city. This dragon's soul flowed into the player, an event that would have profound consequences. The nearby guards hailed the player as Dragonborn, a mythical figure with the power to harness the shouts of dragons. The Greybeards, a reclusive group of monks, sensed this awakening power and summoned the Dragonborn to the throat of the world, a towering mountain. Here, the Dragonborn began their training in the ancient art of the voice, learning the powerful shouts passed down through the ages. However, their journey was far from over. Delphine, a member of the Blades, a secretive organization sworn to protect Tamriel from dragons, approached the Dragonborn. She believed that the Thalmor were behind the dragon attacks and that they were at grave threat. Mistaken or not, the Dragonborn was tasked with infiltrating the Thalmor embassy in Solitude to uncover the truth. Inside the embassy, the Dragonborn discovers that Esbern, a Blade's lore master obsessed with the prophecy of Alduin's return, was still alive and in hiding in Riften. The Dragonborn rescues Esbern from the Thalmor agents, and he revealed a startling revelation. In the past, the ancient Nords had used a special shout called a Dragonrend to render Alduin vulnerable and strip him from his ability to fly. Unfortunately, Arengir, one of the Greybeards, did not know this shout, as it violated the way of the voice. In search for answers, the Dragonborn journeyed to the summit of the Throat of the World to meet Parthernax, an ancient dragon who was also Alduin's brother. Parthernax revealed that no one living knew Dragonrend, but theorized that the Dragonborn could learn it by looking through time at the summit, the site of Alduin's banishment. To achieve this, the Dragonborn needed to retrieve the Elder Scroll used in Alduin's banishment from the massive Dwemer city hidden underground. After obtaining the scroll, the Dragonborn returned to the summit and learned the powerful shout, Dragonrend. Their new knowledge would prove essential in the final showdown with Alduin. Alduin, now aware of the Dragonborn's growing power, launched a brutal assault. With a Dragonrend in their arsenal, the Dragonborn and Parthernax joined forces to overpower Alduin.
But I am Alduin, firstborn of Akatosh, Malagis Zoklat. I cannot be slain here by you or anyone else.
In the end, Alduin fled, his defeat imminent. The Dragonborn's allies hatched a plan to capture a dragon named Odofing, who questioned Alduin's right to rule over dragons. They needed Odofing's help to reach Sovngarde, the Nord afterlife, where Alduin was feeding on the souls of the dead, gaining strength.
Onikan Korav Gan Mirad. It is wise to recognize when you only have one choice. Mubokotin Stinselok.
In exchange for his freedom, Odofing agreed to fly the Dragonborn to Sovngarde. In the ethereal realm of Sovngarde, the Dragonborn met with three ancient heroes who had defeated Alduin in the past. With their assistance in the power of Dragonrend, the Dragonborn engaged Alduin in a fierce battle. They defeated the once terrifying dragon, bringing peace and saving Skyrim from the looming threat. With Alduin's defeat, the Dragonborn returns to Skyrim as a legendary figure, having fulfilled their destiny. Skyrim, though still torn by civil war, was free from the looming shadow of the World Eater, thanks to the Dragonborn's courage and newfound mastery of the voice.
Goran, I feel younger than I have in many age. Many of the Dwemer are now scattered across Kizar. Without Alduin's lordship, they may yet bow to the Vazen, rightness of my Thum. But willing or no, they will hear it. Fare thee well, Tovatim.
The Dawnguard, an ancient order dedication to eradicating vampires, had resurfaced to combat the threat of the bloodthirsty creatures. This resurgence had caught the attention of townsfolk, and rumors of the Dawnguard's return were circling among the town guards. One day, an orcish member of the Dawnguard named Durok approached the player, recognizing them as a potential asset in the fight against the vampires. Regardless of how it all began, the player's journey led them to Fort Dawnguard, a hidden stronghold accessible through Dayspring Canyon near Riften. At Fort Dawnguard, they were introduced to Isran, the Dawnguard's commander. Isran emphasizes the renewed strength and danger of the vampires, citing their recent destruction of the Vigilant of Stendar's headquarters and the killing of the Keeper Corset as reasons for resembling the Dawnguard. The player character was armed with a crossbow and given a crucial task: travel to Dim Hollow Crypt in the Pale, a place where vampires are known to be investigating. Upon reaching Dim Hollow Crypt and dealing with the vampires investigating the ruin, including their leader Lokil, the player made a surprising discovery. A vampire named Serana was trapped inside a statue, and she possessed a powerful Elder Scroll. Serana revealed that her family lived in a dwelling known as Castle Volkahar, off the coast of Skyrim near Solitude. She requested the player's assistance in returning home safely. Once Serana was safely back to Castle Volkahar, her father, the formidable vampire lord Harkon, extended an unexpected offer. In gratitude for his daughter's safety, he allowed the player character to become a vampire lord and join their clan, or they could return to the Dawnguard. This pivotal choice marked the beginning of the main storyline in Dawnguard. If the player accepts Lord Harkon's offer, they were transformed into a vampire lord through a ritual. Harkon shared his history, revealing that he had once been an immortal king who pledged his soul to the Daedric prince Molag Bal in exchange for vampirism. Harkon demonstrated the use of Vampire Lord's powers to the player, and they were assigned to retrieve the Bloodstone Chalice, a powerful artifact meant to aid Harkon's cause. During their quest to fill the chalice with the blood of powerful vampire, the player was ambushed by two Valkohar conspirators, Stolf and Solania, under orders from Harkon's advisors Vingalmo and Orthiolf. After eliminating the traitors, the player added their blood to the chalice and returned to Castle Volkahar. Harkon employed a cunning strategy to lure a Moth Priest to Skyrim by spreading false rumors about the discovery of an Elder Scroll. Moth Priests were capable of deciphering prophecies from the Elder Scrolls. The player was tasked with capturing Dexin Evikis, a Moth Priest who had been enthralled by the orcish vampire named Malchus. With Evikis turned into a thrall, the player discovers from the Elder Scroll that they needed to locate Uriel's bow, and two additional Elder Scrolls. One of these Elder Scrolls was within the Dwemer ruin of Blackreach, while the other was held by Serana's estranged mother, Valerica, who had fled to Castle Volkahar. To retrieve the last Elder Scroll, the player and Serana ventured into the eerie realm of the Soul Cairn. Here, they encountered Valerica and secured the Elder Scroll. Valerica warned them of Harkon Sinister's plans, as they intended to sacrifice Serana to fulfill a prophecy. During their journey in the Soul Cairn, the player also earned the respect of the dragon Durnavir, who provided them with a shout to summon him outside the Soul Cairn. With the knowledge of the Elder Scrolls, the player learned that Auriel's bow was located in Darkfall Cave. They met Galibor, one of the last surviving snow elves and the Knights Paladin of the Chantry of Auriel. Galibor guided the player through tasks to retrieve Auriel's bow and confronted his corrupted brother, Archcurate Verther. Verthur had turned to vampirism and sought to block out the sun to disrupt Auriel's influence on Tamriel as retribution for being afflicted with vampirism.
The vampire is eternal, and with immortality comes the revelation that these bonds never endure. It's fleeting, momentary at best.
Ultimately, the player and Serana confronted Lord Harkon in Castle Volkihar. A fierce battle ensued and Harkon met his end, ending the threat to Tamriel and Serana. In the aftermath, the members of Harkon's court recognized the player character as their new master and ruler of the castle. For those who chose the Dawnguard's path, the story unfolds similarly, but from the perspective of the Dawnguard. The player was tasked with recruiting allies, investigating Serana's information, and ultimately leading to the Dawnguard in a final assault on Harkon and his court. They succeeded in thwarting the prophecy and eliminating the vampire menace from Skyrim. The Dragonborn's epic journey took an unexpected turn when they were attacked by a group of cultists. These zealots were followers of Merethic, a mysterious figure known as the First Dragonborn. After defeating the cultists and examining their orders, the Dragonborn learned of Merethic's presence on the island of Solstheim. Determined to confront this new threat, they chartered a ship, the Northern Maiden, in Windhelm, to take them to Raven Rock on Solstheim. Upon arriving on the island, the Dragonborn began questioning the locals about Merethic. It soon became evident that many of Solstheim's inhabitants had fallen under Merethic's control, unknowingly enslaved to work on runic monoliths known as the Allmaker Stones, scattered across the island. Among the unaffected was a Telvanni wizard named Neloth, who directed the Dragonborn to the Temple of Merethic. Inside the temple, the Dragonborn encountered a Nord woman named Freya, who, despite being immune to Merethic's influence, was trying to free her people, the Skull, from his spell. She joined the Dragonborn and together they explored the temple. Inside, they discovered a mysterious black book. When the Dragonborn read it, they were unexpectedly transported to a realm of Oblivion known as Apocrypha. There, the Dragonborn witnesses Merethic's plans to invade Tamriel. However, Merethic detected their presence and incapacitated them, dismissing them as inferior before sending them back to Solstheim with the help of Seekers, guardians of Apocrypha.
You have no idea of the true power a Dragonborn can wield. This realm is beyond. You have no power here. And it is only a matter of time before Solstheim is also ready.
Back to Solstheim, the Dragonborn visited the Skull and sought guidance from the Skull Shaman, Storn. He instructed the Dragonborn to use a unique dragon shout on an Allmaker Stone, purifying it and freeing the island's inhabitants from Merethic's control. This task was not without challenges, as they had to fend off lurkers, guardians from Apocrypha sent by Merethic to reclaim the stones. Storn then sent the Dragonborn to Neloth, who explained the significance of the Black Book and their connections to Hermaeus Mora, the Daedric Prince of Fate, Knowledge, and Memory. Mora was known as the keeper of the forbidden knowledge and the source of Merethic's power. Together with Neloth, the Dragonborn ventured to the Dwemer ruin of Nichordak to retrieve another Black Book. In this complex container, they discovered knowledge of a powerful shout called Bend Will, believed to be essential in defeating Merethic. Through the Black Books, the Dragonborn journeyed to Apocrypha once more, where they encountered Hermaeus Mora himself. Mora explained that to defeat Merethic, the Dragonborn must acquire the same knowledge that he possessed, in exchange for the secrets of the Skull, one of the few pieces of knowledge that Mora did not possess. The Daedric Prince agreed to grant the Dragonborn this essential knowledge. Upon returning to Solstheim, the Dragonborn encountered a dragon named Krusula, sent by Merethic to eliminate them. After defeating Krusula, they approached Storn, and despite Freya's objections, persuaded the shaman to surrender the Skull's secrets to Mora. Mora extracted Storn's knowledge, leading to the shaman's death before the entire village.
Father! No, stop!
I won't not for you.
With the acquired knowledge, the Dragonborn learned the final words of the Bendwell shout, a crucial step in their quest to defeat Merethic.
I give you The word of power that you need to challenge Mirror.
Returning to Apocrypha once more, the Dragonborn employed the Bendwell Shout to subdue Merek's dragon, Sarotar. This allowed him to mount the dragon and fly to Merek's tower, the summit of Apocrypha. There, the Dragonborn and Merek engage in a fierce battle.
The time for talking is long past.
Merek, despite to replenish his strength, sacrificed his dragons Sarotar, Rilonikif, and Kruzikrel. However, Hermaeus Mora intervened, impaling Merek and expressing his anger at his rebellion and betrayal of his knowledge granted by the Daedric Prince.
You don't think to escape me, Mirror. You can hide nothing from me here. No matter. I have found a new dragonborn to serve me.
May she be rewarded for her service as I am.
Mora transferred Mirek's soul and the power to the Dragonborn, who was then transported back to Solstheim. The summits of Apocrypha became a place where the Dragonborn could exchange dragon souls for recovering perk points, enabling them to customize their skills for future quests in both Solstheim and Skyrim. With Mirek's defeat, the Dragonborn's journey continued, but they have gained powerful knowledge and abilities that would serve them well in the challenges to come. And that is the Elder Scrolls lore explained. Now, that took an extremely long time. It took me about 3 months to do everything. I hope you guys liked the video. Again, apologies for the audio. I am using a phone to record everything, and it's extremely difficult to keep my voice consistent. Hence the reason why there are different cuts that sound different with each take. So yeah, that's pretty much it.